Chapter 560. Gu Lu Feng. Ji Feishue's voice caused the gazes of everyone to freeze as they stared at that magnificent character. Flowing wind and flying snow, both of them had arrived today. Gu Liufeng's white robes fluttered in the wind, his handsome countenance was as calm as still water, without the slightest ripple. This caused the hearts of many females from the major sects to pound. How handsome! Gu Lu Feng is really as handsome as the rumors say. Those females mused in their hearts as they stared at the quiet white-robed young man. Gu Lu Feng was definitely a legendary character in the royal sacred region. He came and went like the wind, appearing here today, but tomorrow, he would be tens of thousands of miles away. Gu Lu Feng had never joined any sect before and was extremely mysterious. The moon beheading saber was cold, the calm lake severing the moon, the sun shooting bow was cool, shooting the 9 heavens, one saber, one bow, unrivaled among those of the same generation. His saber could reap lives, his arrows could reap souls. There were people who said that Gu Liufeng's saber was as handsome as his person, the saber light was smooth yet poignant, his arrows were as carefree as his person, the bowstring moving. The reason why flowing wind and flying snow were placed together was because Gu Lu Feng was proficient in the saber, while Ji Feishue was proficient in the sword. Their saber arts and sword arts were often compared by others, but if they were to fight, Gu Lu Feng should be stronger because his cultivation base was at the 8th level of Heavenly Dipper. As for Ji Feishue, he was younger than Gu Lu Feng and was rumored to be at the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper. But now, he seemed to have already stepped into the 7th level. These two were the targets of admiration for many females from the major sections. Especially for Gu Lu Feng, there were many rumors about him in the royal sacred region, and many beautiful females from the major sects took the initiative to pursue him. However, Gu Lu Feng chose to focus on the martial path and didn't pursue romance. Hence, the title, Flowing Wind, is not romantic. The calm lake severing the moon, shooting the 9 heavens came into being. How could such a seemingly perfect man not be liked by others? Even the princesses of ancient countries and holy maidens of great sects were willing to marry him, and their sects didn't have any objections. It would be best if they could pull Gu Lu Feng, who didn't belong to any sect, into their own sect. Wouldn't that be the best of both worlds? Naturally, the number of gazes Lin Xian attracted definitely wouldn't be any lesser compared to Gu Lu Feng. Gu Lu Feng was the lover of the dreams of many women. In that case, Lin Xian the number 1 beauty under the heavens, who was born with a delicate demeanor, would naturally be the dream lover of countless men. Just a single glance at her would cause the desire to protect her to blossom in their hearts. Just like what Qin Wentian had said, if purely comparing beauty, Lin Xian might not be as perfect as Mo Qingcheng. The hearts of the crowd were filled with excitement. 3 era-suppressing geniuses, Fairy Lin Xian of the Celestial Maiden sect, and the Holy Maiden of the Medicine Sovereign Valley, Mo Qingcheng, all appeared at the same time. From afar, there were even more people madly rushing over here. Those from the Battle Sword sect also arrived. They came together with Ji Feishue and walked to the side of Qin Wentian, staring at the silhouettes of Ji Feishue and Di Shi. Qin Wentian naturally knew of Ji Feishue. He was the 8th personal disciple under Sword Sovereign Ling Tian. Duan Han had once introduced this senior brother to him. Although Ji Feishue was younger than Duan Han, because he entered the sect earlier than Duan Han, he could be considered as the 8th senior brother of Duan Han. Duan Han was the 9th personal disciple, Ji Feishue was the 8th, and Lin Shui was the 7th. Upon seeing the scene in the air, how could the crowd not understand which sect Qin Wentian was from? So it turned out that he was from the Battle Sword sect. No wonder he was so arrogant, directly wanting to kill the little ancestor of the Supreme D clan. Since when had the disciples of the Battle Sword sect been afraid of anyone? Just looking at the lineup before them, if Di Shi didn't give up, the Supreme D clan would definitely suffer. Not only did they have to face the Medicine Sovereign Valley, they had to face the Battle Sword sect as well. Not only that, Lin Xian'er seemed to be acquainted with the young man who wanted to kill Du. She referred to him as Sir Qin. Hence, the identity of Qin Wentian attracted the attention of the crowd. They all wanted to know who this young man was. He seemed to have an ambiguous relationship with the Holy Maiden of the Medicine Sovereign Valley, as though they were a pair of lovers. Within the Battle Sword sect, comprehending 14 sword strikes. In the ancient country of Yi, he joined forces with the Holy Maiden of the Medicine Sovereign Valley to cure the human emperor's poison, aiding the human emperor in quelling the rebellion. He killed Yi Kongfan with a cultivation base at the 5th level of Heavenly Dipper, and the envoys of the Immortal Martial Realm sent him the Immortal Martial Medallion. He is the foster son of the human emperor, Qin Wentian. At this moment, among the crowd, a scholar-like figure spoke, revealing Qin Wentian's identity, causing the crowd to be startled. They didn't expect this young man to have such an impressive background. They had all heard of the rebellion in Yi. The humiliation the Violet Thunder sect suffered. Yi Kongfan was killed by a young man at the 5th level of Heavenly Dipper, and this young man was accepted as the foster son of the human emperor, becoming a companion of the Holy Maiden. When this news first circulated out, no one knew if it was true or false. But now that they saw Qin Wentian almost kill Du for the sake of Mo Qingcheng, they all understood that the rumors were true. Comprehending 14 sword strikes, killing Yi Kongfan, a disciple of the Battle Sword sect, the foster son of the human emperor, the lover of the Holy Maiden of the Medicine Sovereign Valley, and the holder of the Immortal Martial Realm Medallion. Seems like this young man was also a heaven's chosen. It was only because he was together with an era-suppressing genius that his radiance was overshadowed. If it wasn't for Di Shi's appearance earlier, his radiance would have been the most dazzling here, almost claiming Du's life. Things are getting more and more interesting, the hearts of the crowd mused. Draw your swords. Di Shi stared at Ji Feishue, his battle intent towering up to the heavens. Azure light flashed as a gigantic ferocious bird appeared behind him, staring at Ji Feishue with sinister eyes. Encountering a character on the same level as him, how could Di Shi not fight? He wanted to see what capabilities Ji Feishue had to be on the same level as him. Swish, swish, swish. Sword Qi whistled as a row of ancient swords appeared behind Ji Feishue. The ancient swords hummed as the sword intent they exuded was terrifying. For swordsmen, there was nothing they couldn't conquer. At this moment, Ji Feishue exuded an indomitable aura. An azure light flashed, Di Shi's body transformed into a beam of light as he sped towards Ji Feishue. His speed was terrifying, bringing with it a towering pressure. Azure runes flashed as Di Shi's palms slammed out towards Ji Feishue. It was as though a fearsome ferocious bird of prey was trying to grab Ji Feishue as a terrifying screech echoed out. Ji Feishue's palms trembled as a sword appeared in his hands. With a wave of his hand, a beam of sword light filled with destructive might slashed out, directly severing the sharp claws of the ferocious bird of prey. Bzzz. A raging wind gusted as a hurricane manifested. A surge of demonic qi permeated the heavens and earth as an incomparably gigantic ferocious bird appeared in the air. It stared down at Ji Feishue as it flapped its wings frenziedly. In an instant, boundless runic light flashed, transforming into a ferocious bird of prey that flew towards Ji Feishue. The attack power of any one of these ferocious birds is sufficient to tear apart an expert at the peak of the 7th level of Heavenly Dipper. The hearts of the spectators trembled when they felt the violent might of the birds. However, they only saw a sword qi revolving beneath Ji Feishue's feet. His footwork was exquisite, and his swordsmanship was even more exquisite. His sword danced about unceasingly, transforming into a rain of swords. Finally, the rain of swords converged into a waterfall of swords that flowed against the current, tearing everything apart. Die! Ji Feishue's sword light pierced through the air. That waterfall of swords collided with the gigantic ferocious bird of prey in the air, causing a terrifying shockwave to erupt forth. The body of the ferocious bird of prey was forcibly severed, as though the sky itself was being sliced apart. Di Shi retreated into the air, his baleful eyes staring down at Ji Feishue. The two of them actually had no way to injure each other. Both of us are heaven chosen, why don't we compete again in the immortal martial realm? I'm afraid Sir D won't be able to achieve your wish today, Lin Xian'er gently spoke. Di Shi turned his gaze over, his eyes gleaming with a resplendent light. His silhouette flickered as he instantly vanished, rushing towards the direction of Lin Xian'er. Fairy, since you can bring calamity to the masses, why don't you bring calamity to me, Di Shi, first? A cold voice rang out. Lin Xian'er's countenance didn't change. A bright light flashed as numerous clones manifested. Her fingers strummed the strings of her zither as the melody of slaughter shot towards Di Shi. However, Di Shi merely waved his hands, destroying the melody of slaughter unceasingly. The wings of the ferocious bird flapped frenziedly as a terrifying hurricane tore apart Lin Xian'er's clones. Lin Xian'er's voice rang out in all directions. Xian'er was just speaking casually. Sir D, why must you bully a weak girl like me? If I can bring Fairy away, it can be considered as my wish being fulfilled, Di Shi tyrannically spoke, actually wanting to capture Lin Xian'er. His actions were exactly the same as his younger brother, Du. From afar, Gu Lufeng still calmly stood there. At this moment, a gust of wind brushed past his white robes as a bow appeared in his hands. It was none other than the sun-shooting bow. Bzzz. Di Shi's gaze abruptly shifted over, he actually felt an extremely dangerous aura locking onto him. Shifting his eyes, he saw Gu Liufeng's arrow pointed right at him. Although they were separated by a few thousand meters, it felt as though the distance between them was so close. Emichem. The crowd all turned their gazes in Gu Liufeng's direction, only to see that handsome silhouette exuding an unmatched magnificence. His long robes fluttered in the wind as he released his grip. In an instant, the arrow pierced through the air, directly arriving before Di Shi. The speed of this arrow was simply unheard of. Di Shi explosively retreated. His speed was already extremely fast, yet he still couldn't outrun this arrow. With a howl of rage, Di Shi's palms turned green, exuding an indomitable will as he slapped out towards the arrow. Numerous runic lights flashed, transforming into ferocious birds that blocked the arrow. However, piercing sounds rang out unceasingly as the birds were penetrated. Di Shi hurriedly evaded. A light piercing sound rang out as a drop of blood blossomed in the air. Di Shi's shoulder was grazed by the arrow as a trail of blood flowed out. How powerful! The surroundings fell into silence. Gu Liufeng's reputation of being able to shoot through the 9 heavens wasn't undeserved. Although his cultivation base was higher compared to Di Shi, he was still able to injure Di Shi with a single arrow. Such tyrannical strength caused the heartbeats of the crowd to quicken. Some of the female cultivators stared at Gu Lufeng with a strange glint in their eyes. However, that handsome eyes of his didn't waver at all. He kept his bow and arrow, as though he had just done something extremely ordinary. After which, he turned and departed the area. Xian'er thanks Sir Gu. Lin Xian'er stared at the departing silhouette as a brilliant light flashed in her eyes. Although Gu Lufeng shot out an arrow, he didn't even glance at her. Gu Lufeng. Di Shi stared at the departing silhouette as his battle intent towered up into the heavens. His palms touched the bloodstains on his shoulder. There was a terrifying corrosive energy there, and it was precisely this energy that allowed the arrow to break through his defenses, drawing blood with a single strike. Gu Liufeng's saber was as powerful as his arrow, able to sever throats with a single strike. Chapter 561. Several figures clad in white appeared beside Lin Xian'er, protecting her in the center. Lin Xian'er smiled at Di Shi as she spoke in a gentle voice, although both of you are part of the 8 era-suppressing geniuses, there's still some disparity between us. Sir D's strength isn't just a little bit weaker compared to Gu Lufeng. Not only that, in terms of bearing, Sir D actually vented his anger on me because of Xian Er's words. How disappointing. Gu Lu Feng, I will naturally avenge the debt of that arrow. As for our strength, our cultivation bases are different. Who is stronger and who is weaker, we will naturally know after we enter the immortal martial realm. An azure glow radiated from Di Shi as his eyes gleamed with sharpness. He stared at Lin Xian as he faintly spoke, as for venting my anger on Fairy Lin, that's complete nonsense. Di Shi only wanted Fairy Lin to accompany me for a chat, how could I bear to destroy a flower so ruthlessly? Young Master Di's method of inviting people is truly unique, Lin Xian faintly commented. Fairy's beauty charms all living beings. Naturally, I have to use extreme methods. Since Fairy is unwilling, I won't force you. Di Shi's silhouette flickered as he stood in the air. His gaze once again turned to Qin Wentian as a cold killing intent gleamed in his eyes. He pointed his finger at Qin Wentian, do you think that just because Ji Feishue can protect you, you will be safe and sound? Today, you injured my brother. No matter who you are or what your identity is, you are destined to die today. As the sound of his voice faded, Di Shi's silhouette dashed out once more. Ji Feishue coldly snorted, his silhouette flickered as his sword appeared in his hands. With just a thought, he could unleash his sword. However, at this moment, Di Shi's silhouette abruptly flickered as he changed directions, moving towards a group of people. Over there, Fan Lu and the maidens from the Medicine Sovereign Valley were present. Impudent. Ji Feishue knew that he had been tricked. His silhouette flickered, yet how fast was Di Shi's speed? Be careful. Qin Wentian called out. Yun Mingyi blasted out with her palms as a surge of frost energy gushed towards Di Shi. At the same time, Qin Zheng stepped out as he unleashed spatial lacerations. However, he couldn't block Di Shi at all. Di Shi stretched out his palms as a gigantic bird manifested, tearing apart all attacks as it lunged towards them. The countenances of Fan Lu and the rest drastically changed. Di Shi was simply too powerful, regardless of his speed or his attacks. Bang! Astral light erupted as the few of them simultaneously unleashed stellar transposition. Where do you think you're going? Di Shi roared in rage as he blasted out with his palms. Treasured light radiated forth as numerous ferocious primordial birds tore through the air. Get lost. Chu Mang and Ouyang Guangxing's countenances drastically changed. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed with a cold light as a layer of spatial light enveloped his body. Senior brother, help me. Qin Wentian spoke. Duan Han and the others beside him nodded, and Qin Wentian stepped forward. Astral light erupted as he executed stellar transposition, directly heading in the direction of Du and the others. Duan Han immediately understood Qin Wentian's intentions, and a similarly cold light flashed in his eyes. Kill! A terrifying light flashed in the center of Qin Wentian's brows as a terrifying will-o-will gushed forth. Du, who had just recovered a little, instantly screamed in agony, "Save me!" Di Shi's countenance changed. His attack had already landed, the fearsome primordial bird blasted Fan Lu and the others away as fresh blood splattered through the air. Di Shi initially wanted to kill all of them, but Du's screams of agony caused him to instantly turn and rush towards Du's direction. However, Ji Feishue's sword light had already arrived, enveloping this entire space within a screen of swords. Get out of the way! Di Shi howled in rage. His bloodline surged as an even more terrifying primordial bird manifested, transforming into an azure rock that exploded forth. You are too impudent. How could Ji Feishue step aside? With a flick of his wrist, he instantly slashed out a total of 49 times, his sword might lacerating apart the void, blocking Di Shi's path of retreat. You dare! A thunderous roar shook the heavens and earth, causing the entire space to tremble. Astral light flashed in the air, converging into a constellation. Slash! Duan Han had no hesitation as he slashed out with his sword. The entire space transformed into night, enveloping all the protectors of Du. Qin Wentian, Duan Han and the others naturally knew that there were already celestial phenomenon ascendants here. Not only for their opponents, there were ascendants on their side as well. When the major powers headed to the immortal martial realm, there would always be ascendants accompanying them. Not long after Di Shi arrived, these ascendants were already waiting in the shadows. It was just that as ascendants, they wouldn't easily interfere in battles between juniors. Even if there were casualties, they wouldn't interfere. And precisely because both sides knew that the ascendants of the major powers had already arrived, they all thought that this battle would end here. That was until Di Shi made a move against Fan Lu and the others, completely enraging Qin Wentian. Hence, there was this scene. Du was a heaven's chosen of the younger generation of the Supreme Di clan. His cultivation talent wasn't inferior to Di Shi, and in the future, there was a very high possibility that he would become an era-suppressing genius. Upon seeing Qin Wentian and Duan Han actually wanting to kill Du, the ascendants of the Supreme Di clan naturally had to stop them. I didn't interfere, how would it be your turn to interfere? A beam of sword light flashed through the air, slashing towards the constellation. At the same time, a resplendent constellation millstone appeared, transforming into a tempest that separated Qin Wentian and the others from the ascendants of the Supreme Di clan. A silhouette stood in the air, it was none other than Shi Xian and the others. The ascendants of the Battle Sword sect and Yi country had already acted, while the ascendants of the Medicine Sovereign Valley were protecting Imo Qingcheng. In their eyes, Imo Qingcheng's safety was above all else. Now that the battle was about to escalate, the first thing they thought of was to protect Imo Qingcheng. Leave! The supreme ascendants of the Supreme Di clan roared in rage, gesturing for their subordinates to bring Du away. Too late. The beam of light from the center of Qin Wentian's brows frenziedly shot into Du's sea of consciousness, causing Du to scream in agony. The sword light in the darkness was still as bright as ever. Qin Wentian manifested a pair of demonic wings, and with a speed akin to a raging wind, he stabbed out with his halberd towards the crowd of Supreme Di clan. However, this halberd strike vanished without a trace. Careful! The experts in front of Du were extremely nervous. They couldn't see the location of Qin Wentian's Scarlet Demon halberd and could only unleash a large-scale attack, forming a human wall in front of Qin Wentian as they frenziedly unleashed their attacks. Bzzz. Astral light flashed, Qin Wentian transformed into a series of afterimages, appearing extremely blurry in the darkness of the night, almost impossible to see clearly. Puchi. A light sound rang out, Qin Wentian's afterimage finally appeared directly above Du. When the Scarlet Demon halberd appeared once more, it pierced through Du's head, ending his life. Du didn't even have the time to scream. Arg! The experts from the Supreme Di clan frenziedly attacked Qin Wentian. At the same time, the spatial scroll on Qin Wentian's body flashed with an intense light as countless attacks blasted over, causing Qin Wentian to cough out a mouthful of blood. But after that, a spatial light flashed as his body directly vanished from this space. Du! The experts from the Supreme Di clan roared in rage. Di Shi also frenziedly attacked Ji Feishue. With a howl of rage, the space around him trembled unceasingly. His eyes were bloodshot as he let out a low-sounding howl. Di Shi. Ji Feishue slashed out with his sword as he coldly spoke, "This battle has already ended. You were the one who caused the death of your younger brother. Don't blame others for this." What sort of character was Di Shi? How could he endure such provocation? His attacks grew increasingly frenzied, azure light flashed as the ferocious primordial spirit tore apart the heavens and earth. Ji Feishue completely adopted a defensive sword technique, and although Di Shi's attacks were powerful, it was still hard for him to injure Ji Feishue. The two of them were originally evenly matched. As for Fan Lu and the others, they were all injured. Mo Qingqing led the experts from the Medicine Sovereign Valley and passed some medicinal pills to them while ensuring their safety. On the other side, the experts from the Battle Sword Sect and Shixian's side also held an absolute advantage against the experts from the Supreme D clan. Those from the Supreme D clan hugged Du's corpse as they howled in rage, yet there was nothing they could do. Today, they would definitely suffer a loss for sure. They had lost a young genius, yet they couldn't do anything to Di at all. Not only that, the culprit who killed Du, Qin Wentian, had already used a spatial scroll to vanish. Earlier, he had only used the spatial scroll because he wanted to evade the combined attacks of those geniuses. If not, even if Qin Wentian didn't leave, Di wouldn't be able to do anything to him. This time around, Di is going crazy. His younger brother attacked Qin Wentian's friend, causing Qin Wentian to go berserk. Qin Wentian spared no expense to kill his younger brother. If not, both sides wouldn't have fought. The hearts of the spectators mused. Initially, they also thought that the battle wouldn't happen. After all, both sides had experts in the shadows, and it would be very difficult for them to shed all pretense of cordiality. But who would have thought that the winds and clouds would change so drastically? Di was too arrogant, which led to such an ending. Naturally, this could only be blamed on Du for his arrogance. Most probably, he didn't expect that today would be the doomsday of a young genius like him. Staring at the crazed look on Di's face, the hearts of the spectators mused. Although Du had temporarily died, it was still hard to say what would happen in the end. Di would definitely take revenge, but would Qin Wentian be able to withstand Di's revenge? Also, these friends of Qin Wentian, Di wouldn't spare a single one of them. They could only pray that they wouldn't meet with them in the immortal martial realm. After all, celestial phenomenon ascendants weren't allowed to enter the immortal martial realm. Rumble. A towering rage towered up into the skies. Finally, Di no longer bothered with Ji Feishue. He soared up into the air, his gaze staring disdainfully at Mo Qingqing, Fan Lu and the others. After which, he glanced at his younger brother Du as he howled in madness. The immortal martial realm shall be your doomsday. Di howled, his voice shaking the heavens and earth, causing the eardrums of the spectators to ache. Go! Di roared again. The experts of the D clan carried Du's corpse and soared up into the skies, departing from this place. Evidently, they knew that they wouldn't be able to do anything to Di in this situation. But as they stared at their departing silhouettes, everyone understood that the seed of hatred had already been sown. It was impossible for Di and the D clan to give up on revenge. Ji Feishue frowned. After which, he turned to Duan Han, we have to find junior brother Qin as soon as possible. In the future, all of you have to be more careful. Try not to roam around alone. This Di doted on his younger brother a lot, and now that he saw his younger brother dead, I'm afraid he would go crazy for revenge. That's also because he deserved to die. Duan Han coldly spoke. They were all prepared to give up, yet Di had actually triggered this huge battle. However, they were all silently on guard, knowing what they should do. Since the seed of hatred had already been sown, they could only be more careful in their actions in the future. What an interesting fellow. From afar, Lin Xian'er laughed lightly. That Sir Qin was truly crazy. When he saw Di acting against his friend, he didn't hesitate to sacrifice everything to kill Du. Chapter 562. In the inn, the others returned one after another. Upon learning that everyone was safe and sound, Qin Wentian set his heart at ease. In the following days, Qin Wentian didn't go out. Other than cultivating, he would spend time with Mo Qingqing. Occasionally, he would find some time to drink and chat with Fan Lu and the others. Naturally, he didn't forget to inquire about Bai Qing's whereabouts. So it turned out that back then after Fan Lu and the others exited the royal tomb, they gathered together and explored a few secret realms in Grand Xia. Coincidentally, they went to a forbidden ground in Grand Xia, the Devil Statue Cliff, and encountered many dangers there. In fact, they almost couldn't even walk out from there, losing their lives. It was Bai Qing who saved them. They couldn't forget that in front of the towering devil statue, Bai Qing had unleashed the chaotic art of the heavenly devil, staring at the awakening devil statue. Bai Qing had bought them a split second of time, allowing them to exit safely. However, Bai Qing was still trapped in the devil statue cliff. No one knew if she was dead or alive. Upon hearing this news, Qin Wentian was extremely worried for Bai Qing's safety. But according to Ouyang, although Bai Qing had roamed together with them, she was extremely cold and didn't like to speak. Nobody knew what she was thinking in her heart, but they could all sense the loneliness and depression in her heart. Even if it wasn't for the sake of saving them, Bai Qing wouldn't have left the devil statue cliff. She would continue to stay there, pursuing the unknown mysteries, even if she lost her life. Yun Mengyi was a female. She should be the one who understood Bai Qing's state of heart the most. Her words caused Qin Wentian to feel uneasy. Yun Mengyi stared at Qin Wentian, telling him that Bai Qing had entered a heart devil, and she couldn't walk out of it. She treated her own life very lightly. Yun Mengyi's words lingered in Qin Wentian's heart for a long time, causing him to feel extremely uncomfortable. There was an indescribable feeling in his heart. He naturally understood that all of this had something to do with Bai Qing's experiences. Back then, the things the Bai clan did to him had already caused Bai Qing to walk on a stubborn path, starting to cultivate devil arts. Devil arts could easily affect one's state of mind, causing a heart devil to grow. It was extremely difficult to cultivate, and if one was careless, they would be consigned to eternal damnation. The personality of devil cultivators were usually extremely stubborn. Nobody could change that. After that, when they met again, Bai Qing had forcefully endured his attack on the heavenly fate ranking platform, seeking forgiveness on behalf of her father and sister, Autumn Snow. Calling him Wentian Gij had caused the pent-up frustrations in her heart to ease a little, and in addition to the fact that he no longer held grudges against Bai Qingsong and Autumn Snow, Bai Qing finally showed signs of improvement. But after that, her master died tragically, and he, Qin Wentian, was also heavily injured. Thinking back to the time when he was young, that innocent and adorable little lass always liked to follow behind him, calling him Wentian Gij. Qin Wentian couldn't help but feel a little unbearable in his heart. He definitely had to make a trip back to Grand Xia to settle the matters there and find that lass Bai Qing. As for Qin Wentian, he had always been seriously cultivating and had never left the inn before. This wasn't merely because he was worried about the revenge of Di Shi and the others. Back then, he had personally witnessed the 4 era-suppressing geniuses, including Di Shi, his mortal enemy. Each and every one of them were exceedingly talented, and in addition to the other 4, as well as the geniuses from the 9 great sects and ancient countries, one could very well imagine how intense the competition in the immortal martial realm would be. Qin Wentian hoped that he could increase his strength as much as possible. The immortal martial realm was known by the people of the royal sacred region as the burial ground for heaven's chosen. This wasn't just an exaggeration. This time around, it was unknown how many heaven's chosen would be eliminated, and as for those who managed to survive, they would definitely be able to stand out. The immortal martial realm was located outside the immortal martial city. This ancient city was built around the immortal martial realm. Every 10 years, the immortal martial realm was an independent realm. It was rumored that the master of the immortal martial realm was an immortal, a character on the same level as the sect leader of the royal sacred sect, the hegemon of the royal sacred region. He was a legendary existence above celestial phenomenon. There was also a rumor that the immortal martial realm was held once every 10 years, and it was precisely to filter out the geniuses of the royal sacred region, allowing all the heavens chosen to have a chance to enter the immortal martial realm once in their lifetime. The reason for this was because the master of the immortal martial realm was searching for a successor. In any case, there were many rumors regarding the immortal martial realm, but there were only a few that most people were willing to believe. Although it was known as the burial ground for heaven's chosen, there were still countless geniuses who were willing to roam the immortal martial realm. This was the golden age of the entire royal sacred region, nobody would be willing to miss it. This burial ground for heaven's chosen was filled with boundless good fortune, and there were countless geniuses who rose up from the immortal martial realm. For those whose names were inscribed on the ranking monument outside the immortal martial realm, many of them had already become leaders of ancient clans, human emperors of ancient countries, and sect leaders of great sections. At this moment, outside the immortal martial realm, there was a sea of people, so vast that one couldn't see the end of it with a single glance. Most probably, all the people in the immortal martial realm were gathered here. This was the first time Qin Wentian witnessed such a grand scene. Back then, the ranking battle of the heavenly fate rankings in Grand Xia was already extremely magnificent, but when compared to the number of people who came to the immortal martial realm, there was simply no way they could be mentioned in the same breath. Firstly, the number of people in Grand Xia couldn't be compared to the royal sacred region, the disparity was too great. Not only that, the number of experts in Grand Xia was also far from being comparable to the immortal martial realm. It's really shocking. Fatty Fan Lu grinned. The group of them soared through the air, only to see that the air was filled with people. They didn't dare to move too fast, as they were afraid of colliding with others. Compared to the royal sacred region, Grand Xia is truly a desolate land of desolation. No wonder those experts couldn't be bothered to go to Grand Xia, Ouyang Guangxing commented in a low voice, he was similarly shocked. Grand Xia was once extremely powerful, it was one of the three great empires in the royal sacred region. It's just that after that, there were people who coveted it and plundered the treasury of Grand Xia. After a few thousand years, the experts of Grand Xia all left Grand Xia, resulting in the current Grand Xia. Yunmengyi sighed. This was like a vicious cycle. The stronger the place, the more geniuses there would be. And in the weaker places, even if demon-level geniuses were born, they wouldn't be able to retain them. This was a cultivation pyramid. The strong were all trying to climb to the top. Everyone was on their path, including the heaven chosen of the royal sacred region. One day, even if the royal sacred region couldn't retain them, they would still head to an even vaster world. How many people are there? Even 1 million is considered too little. Can the immortal martial realm even hold so many people? Fan Li's lips twitched. The majority of them are here to spectate, and there are also some who are here to accompany their friends or send them off. For those who have truly stepped into the immortal martial realm, it's already not bad if there's 1 out of 10. Yi Lingshuang replied. After all, ordinary people wouldn't dare to step into the immortal martial realm. Just this number of people is sufficient to cause ordinary people to retreat. Thank you, beautiful sister. Fan Lu blinked his eyes as he stared at Yi Lingshuang. His narrowed eyes gleamed with a light that caused Yi Lingshuang to be speechless. She didn't know where Qin Wentian found such a shameless friend, his eyes would light up the moment he saw a beauty. However, Yi Lingshuang also understood Fan Li's temperament. According to Fatty's words, the love of beauty was innate. Qingqing, don't enter the immortal martial realm. Qin Wentian held her hand, his gaze gentle. Mo Qingqing had a sweet smile on her face as she replied in a low voice, why can't I enter? Your talent lies in alchemy. The immortal martial realm is a place to temper one's martial path, it's fine even if your cultivation is weaker. I don't wish to see you in any danger. How could Qin Wentian not know what Mo Qingqing was thinking? Yet he still gently spoke, causing the smile on Mo Qingqing's face to grow even sweeter. She nodded her head, I will listen to you. But you have to promise me that you will definitely be careful in the immortal martial realm. Don't worry, even if I can bear to lose myself, I can't bear to lose you. Qin Wentian squeezed Mo Qingqing's dainty hand, causing an expression of shyness to appear on Mo Qingqing's face. She rolled her eyes at Qin Wentian as she spoke in a lovable voice, what a glib tongue. Initially, Qin Wentian had thought of asking Di Tian to help him as well. But after thinking about it, he decided to be more conservative. Di Tian was his other body. If something really happened to him in the immortal martial realm, at the very least, he would still be alive. Hence, he decided to dispel this idea. The group of them finally arrived at a location near the immortal martial realm. Up ahead, they could see a row of white-robed figures standing in the surroundings of a gigantic ancient monument. On the monument, the words Immortal Martial Realm were engraved, gleaming with a resplendent light. This 100-meter-tall monument was none other than the Immortal Martial Realm Monument. At the same time, it was also the entrance to the Immortal Martial Realm. About 100 meters in front of the monument, there were 81 stone pillars. The eyes of those in front all gleamed with sharpness as they stared at the stone pillars. The disciples from the ancient clans and sects all radiated a towering aura, as though they wanted to ascend the stone pillars. The silhouettes of 3 envoys flickered as they stood on top of the monument. Their gazes swept over the silhouettes before them as their gazes contained a terrifying penetrative power. Anyone who met their gaze, no matter the holy maidens or the princes of ancient countries, would all fall silent. This silence continued on, and gradually, the countless silhouettes all stopped moving. The vast space of 100 miles was incomparably silent. Just this scene alone caused the hearts of many to quicken. Those who have obtained the immortal martial medallion, come up the stone pillars. The envoys in the center of the immortal martial realm indifferently spoke. This voice of his seemed to penetrate through the void, spreading over 100 miles. The 81 people who have obtained the immortal martial realm medallion are the people that the envoys of the immortal martial realm look up to the most. Almost all of them are heaven chosen from the 9 great sects, ancient countries, and clans. The gazes of the crowd turned to the front only to see a silhouette stepping out, landing on a stone pillar in the center. That's Di Shi from the Di clan, one of the 8 era-suppressing geniuses. It's rumored that his younger brother was killed by someone. After Di Shi, more and more people ascended the stone pillars. Gu Lu Feng, that's Gu Lu Feng, how handsome. That must be Li Tian, how majestic. The number 1 beauty under the heavens, Lin Xian'er, she also obtained an immortal martial medallion. Who's that? She's actually so beautiful, and her beauty can even be compared to Lin Xian'er. Not only that, her demeanor is extraordinary. Princess Jiao Yang of the Grand Zhou Empire is truly outstanding. Who said that women are inferior to men? That's the saint child of the supreme demon sect. What a powerful demonic chi. Nangong Shuang of the Nangong aristocrat clan is here as well. I wonder if the Nangong aristocrat clan still hates the celestial maiden sect. One by one, the geniuses stepped onto the stone pillars. The 81 people who stepped onto the stone pillars were all geniuses of the heavens. Their appearance immediately caused a huge commotion. Chapter 563. The 8 era-suppressing geniuses were undoubtedly the most dazzling. The vast majority of gazes were locked onto them. Ji Feishue and Qin Wentian ascended the stone pillar together. The 2 of them were already acquainted with each other, and were also fellow disciples of the same sect. Naturally, their relationship would be much closer compared to strangers. The 2 of them stood on the stone pillar next to each other. Other than the 2 of them, there were 2 other people from the Battle Sword sect standing on the 2 stone pillars beside them. They were a man and a woman. The 2 of them were disciples from the other 2 mountain peaks. That cold and elegant woman stood under the sunlight, yet she gave off a sense of coldness, as though she was a celestial maiden under the moon, untouchable. Her position was the exact opposite of Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian stood on the left of Ji Feishue, while she stood on the right. Lu Bingyu. The reason why Qin Wentian paid attention to this woman was naturally because of the Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness. This woman was none other than the most beloved disciple of the Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness, Lu Bingyu. Within the immortal martial realm, no divine weapons or treasures were allowed to be used. The immortal martial realm was a world of its own, rejecting all external energies. In order to allow Lu Bingyu to have an even stronger trump card, the Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness didn't hesitate to take advantage of the human emperor of Yi Qingyan's precarious state, digging out a treasure from his body before giving it to Lu Bingyu. Right now, that treasure should have already been assimilated into Lu Bingyu's body, becoming a part of her. Qin Wentian silently mused. No one could tell what he was thinking from his deep eyes, but ever since the Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness took away the treasure from the human emperor, Qin Wentian, the relationship between Lu Bingyu and Lu Bingyu had already been determined. Although they were from the same sect, they were enemies and not friends. Other than the 8 era-suppressing geniuses, the countless silhouettes outside the immortal martial realm were also surveying the others. Among these 81 heaven chosen who obtained the medallion, the 9 great sects only took up 1/3 of the total number. The rest were all heaven chosen from the various transcendent powers of the royal sacred region. Some had 1, some had 2. Although there were some unfamiliar faces like Qin Wentian, when the crowd mentioned that Qin Wentian was the one who killed Yi Kong Fan as well as Diyu from the Di clan, they didn't think too much about it. It wasn't strange for him to have an immortal martial realm medallion in his hands. Killing Yi Kong Fan, who was 2 levels higher than him, and killing Diyu in front of Dishir, how gutsy and imposing was that? It was only a pity that his cultivation base was a little too low. Although it was rumored that the immortal martial realm tested one's talent, and would provide a level playing field for experts of different cultivation levels, there was no such thing as absolute fairness. At the end, they still had to rely on their absolute strength to fight for the fruits of this trip. This was a feast of great waves washing sand. Immortal Martial Realm, activate. The emissary on top of the Immortal Martial Realm monument spoke. Instantly, rumbling sounds rang out as the gate to the Immortal Martial Realm was pulled open. Countless gazes stared into the Immortal Martial Realm, wanting to see clearly what sort of world it was exactly. They saw many floating islands, intertwined with each other, resembling floating cities. Just a single glance was enough to make one unable to forget such a scene. Are these the 81 floating bridges of the Immortal Martial Realm? Although many had already heard about the Immortal Martial Realm from the mouths of the previous participants, it was still extremely shocking to see it with their own eyes. Although the 81 floating bridges were called bridges, each and every bridge was like a world of its own, a type of tempering. These 81 floating bridges corresponded to the 81 medallion holders. And it was precisely because of the existence of these floating bridges that the Immortal Martial Realm medallion was created. The emissary of the Immortal Martial Realm chose the 81 participants because he didn't want them to clash against each other too early. Naturally, if the 81 of them were eliminated by someone else on one of the floating bridges, it could only be said that they were useless. The 81 of you, each of you will walk towards one of the floating bridges. Although the experience on each bridge will be different, the danger level is the same. As for your ending, you will have to depend on yourselves. As for the others, feel free to step onto any of the floating bridges and enter. An emissary waved his hands. Instantly, the 81 silhouettes on the stone pillars flickered as they advanced into the Immortal Martial Realm. Qin Wentian and Ji Feishue walked side by side. The instant they stepped into the Immortal Martial Realm, a formless heavenly might descended from the heavens. The great Tao was formless, yet there was a sense of pressure that enveloped all the participants who stepped into the Immortal Martial Realm. Their countenances didn't change at all. Evidently, they already knew the general situation inside. Not only that, as the 81 participants chosen by the emissary of the Immortal Martial Realm, their wills were all exceedingly tough. Given their strength, so what if their cultivation bases were suppressed? For heavens chosen, they didn't rely solely on their cultivation base. Regardless of combat strength, comprehension, or will, they were all incomparable to ordinary people. Qin Wentian also roughly understood the situation inside. He had heard that the 81 floating bridges in the Immortal Martial Realm would never change, but the dangers and opportunities within would change. As for the suppression on his cultivation base, it would be lifted sooner or later. Hence, What he needed to do now was to use the tempering in the immortal martial realm to raise his own strength before the suppression was lifted. He wanted to raise his cultivation base to the next level before the suppression was lifted. Staring at the 81 floating bridges before him, Qin Wentian couldn't help but feel shock in his heart. Each and every floating bridge was akin to a world of its own, leading to different places with different trials and dangers, as well as different opportunities. A sharp killing intent landed on Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian's sharp senses sensed that this killing intent originated from different places. Other than Di Shi, there were also those from the Violet Thunder sect. Qin Wentian didn't look at them. These were all things he would have to face sooner or later. But now, there were even more dangers waiting for him. If he wanted to walk all the way to the end, the number of enemies he would have to face wouldn't be as simple as Di Shi and the Violet Thunder sect. Many people flickered as they flew towards one of the floating bridges. Junior brother Qin, choose a floating bridge. One bridge, one world, it all depends on your luck, Ji Feishue spoke to Qin Wentian. Ji Feishue. At this moment, a voice drifted over from beside Ji Feishue. It was Lu Bingyu's voice. Turning his gaze over, Ji Feishue stared at that cold countenance. For the ranking monument of the immortal martial realm, I will be ranked before you, Lu Bingyu calmly replied. After which, her silhouette flickered as she sprinted towards a floating bridge. Very confident. Ji Feishue lightly smiled as he similarly stepped out. Lu Bingyu didn't look at Qin Wentian. Maybe she didn't know of the relationship between Qin Wentian and the human emperor. Turning his gaze onto the air, Qin Wentian's silhouette flickered like a gust of wind as he stepped onto a floating bridge. He who possessed the immortal martial medallion was the first to step onto this floating bridge. The other 80 participants all chose their own floating bridges. This way, they wouldn't clash with each other prematurely. The floating bridge Qin Wentian was on was an independent existence. Although it was side by side with the other 80 bridges, it led to a completely different direction. He drew in a deep breath as he stared at the never-before-seen scenery in front of him. One bridge, one world. The army behind him finally entered the immortal martial realm, and all of them moved towards the floating bridges. In an instant, Qin Wentian could already feel an overwhelming aura gushing towards him from behind. Although there were 81 floating bridges, the number of people entering the immortal martial realm was simply too many. The number of people who stepped onto each of the floating bridges would always be over 1,000. Qin Wentian slowly walked on the floating bridge, his steps firm and resolute. The immortal martial realm was the golden age of the royal sacred region. He would definitely grab hold of this rare opportunity to improve himself. Halt! A thunderous voice drifted over from behind. After Qin Wentian, another person arrived on this floating bridge. This second person had already chosen his path, and when he saw Qin Wentian stepping onto the floating bridge, he immediately followed after him. There were 81 heaven chosen with the immortal martial medallion. Although Qin Wentian also had a glorious battle record, to the majority, the danger he posed wasn't as high as the others. At the very least, this was what Shi Kuang of the Heaven Crippling sect felt. It was precisely Shi Kuang who stopped Qin Wentian, telling him to halt. Qin Wentian indeed halted. Turning his head back, he saw Shi Kuang stepping onto the floating bridge. Behind him, the army of soldiers could be seen moving over. Qin Wentian didn't say anything, he simply stared at Shi Kuang. Staring at the deep yet calm eyes of Shi Kuang couldn't help but feel a sense of panic in his heart. This kind of feeling was extremely fatal, especially in the immortal martial realm. How could he feel fear just because of the gaze of someone? Although you have the immortal martial medallion, I think it's better for all of us to travel together. Shi Kuang suppressed his emotions, but he didn't say any more impolite words. It was as though he was afraid of Qin Wentian's calm yet invasive gaze. Shi Kuang faintly sensed that within that calmness of Qin Wentian's, there was an unfathomable amount of wild energy. If he was the slightest bit careless, he would be ignited and explode. Wentian. Yiling Shuang arrived at the floating bridge. Upon seeing Qin Wentian, she immediately sped forward, moving to the side of Qin Wentian. After which, Fan Lu and the others also appeared. They naturally wanted to walk the same path as Qin Wentian, hence they all followed him to this floating bridge. Only now did Qin Wentian retract his gaze from Shi Kuang. He smiled at Yi Lingshuang, "Sister Lingshuang, let's travel together." The number of people on the floating bridge grew more and more, to the point where the space was almost filled to the brim. Qin Wentian and the others continued forward, their hearts filled with trepidation. In the world above the floating bridge, there were towering ancient trees and ancient buildings. But no matter how beautiful the scenery was, there was only a single path on the floating bridge. It continued to extend endlessly, with no end in sight. The people behind started to form alliances. Many of them were fellow apprentices from the same sect, taking care of each other as they ascended the same bridge together. Just like Fan Lu and Ouyang Quangshen, they soon formed a small circle. This way, they would be able to better protect themselves. Shi Kuang and the disciples from the Heaven Crippling sect formed an alliance. The other major powers did the same as well, including those from the 9 great sects. Duan Han didn't come to this floating bridge. He was very clear of Qin Wentian's combat prowess. Since both of them had suppressed their cultivation bases, it wouldn't be a problem to leave this floating bridge to Qin Wentian. He brought the others to another floating bridge. The other members of the Battle Sword sect didn't trust Qin Wentian as much as Duan Han did. Hence, although there were disciples from the Battle Sword sect here, they chose to form an alliance instead of joining Qin Wentian's alliance. Chapter 564. The floating bridges were extremely vast, but there was only a single path in the middle. Everyone started moving forward together, following the path. Gradually, they diverged from the other 80 floating bridges, heading in different directions. Maybe they would eventually meet again, but at the very least, they wouldn't meet before crossing the bridge. Cultivation base suppression, mandate suppression, how irritating, Fan Lu gloomily commented as he walked. He discovered that his cultivation base had been suppressed to the first level of Heavenly Dipper, and even his will of mandates had been suppressed to the initial level of the second level. Although he could unleash more power, he couldn't unleash it at all. This made him feel extremely uncomfortable. The rules of the immortal martial realm are like this. At the start, they would give everyone a fair environment. This is a good thing for us. Once the suppression on our cultivation bases is lifted, who knows how many people would be able to kill us. Yi Lingshuang spoke in a low voice. Fatty muttered a few more words, but he agreed with Yi Lingshuang's words. Their cultivation bases were indeed on the weaker side here. Not only that, Fan Lu was extremely astute, he could clearly sense the lofty aura exuding from the people here. This kind of loftiness felt as though they wanted to devour everyone else, becoming the only one left in the immortal martial realm. He was very clear that there were many elites from the royal sacred region here, all of them were extremely ambitious. Although things were calm now, there was still a blazing fire in the hearts of everyone. What the hell are these? Fan Lu noticed a total of 18 silver puppets appearing in front of them. They were blocking the path of the crowd, standing in a formation. The test of the immortal martial realm has begun, the hearts of the crowd mused. Danger lurked in every corner of the immortal martial realm. Astral light flashed, transforming into arrows that pierced through the air, shooting towards the silver puppets. The bodies of the 18 puppets glowed with an intense silver light as the long spears in their hands pierced out at the same time. The silver light radiating from the 18 spears converged together, shattering the arrows into pieces. The attack power of each puppet is equivalent to an expert at the peak of the first level of Heavenly Dipper with an initial level of mandates. With all 18 of them working together, the power of their attacks seems to be fused together, reaching the peak of the second level of Heavenly Dipper with an initial level of mandates at the advanced boundary. Qin Wentian's senses were extremely sharp as he analyzed. The silhouettes behind him all nodded in agreement with Qin Wenqian's words. We can force our way in. Although their realms and martial wills were suppressed, it was not a problem for their small alliance to force their way through the first level's test. In their alliance, there were 8 people: Qin Wenqian, Yi Lingshuang, Fan Lu, Ouyang Guangsheng, Chu Mang, Yun Mengyi, Qin Zheng and Mu Feng. Ouyang and I will take the vanguard, Qin Zheng and Yun Mengyi will support us from the flanks, Fatty and Big Bro Chu Mang will suppress us from the back, while Sister Lingshuang and Mu Feng will stand in the middle to prevent any accidents. Qin Wenqian replied. Such an arrangement was indeed reasonable. Although the first test of the immortal martial realm wouldn't be too monstrous, it was still better to be more cautious in case there were any accidents. All right. Everyone agreed with Qin Wenqian's plan. The army behind them was also happy to let Qin Wenqian and the others test the waters first. Naturally, they waited quietly. Let's go. After getting into formation, Qin Wenqian commanded as he dashed towards the 18 silver-colored puppets. Because of the formless suppression, they couldn't even release their astral novas and could only release their astral souls. Qin Wenqian transformed into his demonic form as a demonic armor appeared in his hands. His eyes gleamed with sharpness as a heavenly hammer appeared in his hands. Since he wanted to open a path, he naturally had to launch a tyrannical attack. Ouyang Guangsheng also released his astral soul. It was extremely dazzling. His entire body glowed with lightning and fire as he dashed forward. The 18 silver-armored puppets simultaneously launched their attacks towards Qin Wenqian and the others. Yet another dazzling spear strike, capable of penetrating through everything. Bzzz. A raging wind gusted by as both Qin Wenqian and Ouyang Guangsheng unleashed their attacks. How terrifying was the force behind their attacks. At the instant Qin Wenqian's heavenly hammer blasted out, the entire space trembled. Although their cultivation bases and wills of mandates were suppressed, the usage of energy and innate techniques were still unfathomable. The attacks of both parties collided together. Qin Wenqian and Ouyang Guangsheng directly rushed into the midst of the silver-armored puppets, forcing them back. However, these puppets seemed to have an undying body. They lifted their palms and blasted out a second round of attacks, their spear technique still as dazzling as ever as they slashed towards the two at the forefront. At this moment, Qin Zheng and Yun Mengyi unleashed their full power. The power of ice and the power of space erupted forth at the same time, blocking the spear lights. Qin Lu and Chu Mang had already prepared their swords, and the instant their attacks collided, the 8 of them had already rushed into the center of the encirclement, advancing forward. We can't kill them, we can only force them to retreat. The spectators understood in their hearts when they saw this. Qin Wenqian and Ouyang Guangsheng once again unleashed their attacks, blocking the spear light in front of them. Although there was some pressure, they still managed to safely pass through the formation of the 18 puppets, arriving at the other end of the floating bridge. If there's only one of us, it would be extremely difficult to pass through. Qin Wenqian mumbled as he landed on the bridge. The spectators naturally knew that although Qin Wenqian and the others appeared to be having an easy time, that was only because of their teamwork. If they were alone, unless they were an extremely demon-level character, they would definitely die. From this point, one could see that the difficulty of the immortal martial realm was extremely high. Just the first checkpoint already had such a level of difficulty. This also forced those who hadn't formed an alliance to form one after another. Let's go quickly. Those at the back, upon seeing Qin Wenqian and the others leaving, didn't dare to waste any more time. They didn't want Qin Wenqian and the others to be the first ones to obtain the benefits. Hence, more and more people started to force their way through, using their fastest speed to pass through the 18 puppets. Under the alliance of the strong, the passing rate was extremely high. The stronger one was, the more confident they would be, daring to race against time. As time passed, the death rate gradually increased. Qin Wenqian and the others didn't have the time to pay attention to this. They continued moving forward, and not long after, they came to a halt. An incomparably gigantic demonic beast hovered in the air in front of them. Its gigantic head was right in front of them, and if they wanted to pass through the floating bridge, they had to pass through the head of this demonic beast. What demonic beast is this? This demonic beast was entirely black in color, with malevolent-looking scales covering its body. It resembled a serpent demon, but there was also a faint shadow of a flood dragon. Black Jiao Python, the black mist it breathes out is extremely corrosive, Yi Lingshuang replied. A black Jiao Python at the third level of Heavenly Dipper, the corrosive mist it breathes out can easily kill us. Upon feeling the cold gaze of the python, Yi Lingshuang's countenance turned extremely unsightly. Why was the second level so difficult? The cold eyes of the black Jiao Python stared at them, as though it understood Yi Lingshuang's words. A demonic glint flashed in its eyes. There must be a way, the immortal martial realm wouldn't leave a path of no return, Qin Jing spoke in a low voice. After which, he turned to the black Jiao Python, Brother Python, can you tell me the rules? The black Jiao Python stared at Qin Jing, its sinister eyes gleaming with a cold light as it replied, I am the rules. It wasn't strange that the black Jiao Python could speak in the human tongue. Demonic beasts at the Heavenly Dipper realm could naturally speak in the human tongue, and if a demonic beast wanted to experience the life of a human, it could even shed its demonic form and transform into a human. However, demons had their own paths, and many demonic beasts didn't like the human form. It was just like how humans wouldn't like the form of demonic beasts. If not, back then when Qin Wentian could transform into a great rock, he wouldn't have tried so hard to transform back into a human. This demonic beast is truly arrogant, Fan Lu murmured. The black Jiao Python stared at him as it grinned, you better be careful. Fuck, Brother Python, don't be so vengeful. Fan Lu grumbled, cursing in his heart. This demonic beast at the third level of Heavenly Dipper actually dared to be so arrogant. If it wasn't for the fact that his cultivation base was suppressed, he wouldn't have bothered to waste words with it. But now that the black Jiao Python was guarding the checkpoint, he couldn't afford to offend it. The black Jiao Python didn't say anything, it only stared at Fan Lu as the others gradually caught up. Brother Jiao, I have something here for you. At this moment, a silhouette stepped forward. With a flash of light, this person tossed a gigantic bead of demonic qi towards the black Jiao Python. The black Jiao Python swallowed the bead in a single gulp. After which, its triangular eyes flashed with satisfaction as it stared at that person. I will follow the normal rules. Watch carefully. After speaking, the black Jiao Python started to spit out a black-colored mist. Complementing its breathing, it breathed out rhythmically. The corrosive nature of the black mist was extremely terrifying. Even from afar, people would feel a sense of danger. If they were struck by it, their bodies would definitely be corroded. How troublesome. A thought appeared in the hearts of the spectators. The so-called normal rules referred to the fact that the black Jiao Python was breathing out rhythmically. It seemed like the black Jiao Python didn't dare to let people off easily. Many thanks, Brother Jiao. These are all people from my Supreme Demon sect. The young man spoke to the group of people behind him. The black Jiao Python nodded its head. So they are from the Supreme Demon sect. No wonder they are so familiar with the nature of demonic beasts. It's rumored that snake demons are all lustful and greedy. Not only did this person from the Supreme Demon sect give gifts, he even addressed the black Jiao Python as Brother Jiao. Jiao sounds better than pythons. The spectators mused in their hearts as they saw the person from the Supreme Demon sect rushing out. At the instant the black Jiao Python breathed out, that person who was already waiting at the side unleashed his speed to the extreme. His body was clad in demonic energy as he instantly dashed past the head of the black Jiao Python. The black mist that the black Jiao Python breathed out only touched him a little, yet it instantly corroded his defenses. This caused the hearts of the spectators to tremble. This person had long been prepared, and it was clear that the black Jiao python had the intention to let him pass. After which, the second person from the Supreme Demon sect also rushed over. Although he also passed, his leg was injured. The third person was also in a dangerous situation. The fourth person had one of his legs corroded away. As for the fifth person, he was enveloped by the black mist and completely transformed into a lump of flesh and blood before disappearing completely. The hearts of the spectators trembled. "Brother Jiao, I have a good item here for you." Yiling Shuang walked up as an exquisite little sword appeared in her hands. Although divine weapons couldn't be used here, as long as they didn't unleash their might, there wouldn't be a problem. If not, once the power of a divine weapon was unleashed, a calamity would descend upon this world. The black Jiao python didn't say anything. It stared at Yiling Shuang as a lustful expression flashed in its eyes. This scene caused Fan Lu to be infuriated as he cursed, "This beast is actually lusting after women. Snake demons are lustful creatures." The spectators silently mused. Could it be that this serpent demon had designs on women? Qin Wentian and the rest furrowed their brows, only to see the black Jiao python glaring at Fan Lu with a venomous expression on its face. In this place, it was the rule. Chapter 565. Idiot, you've angered me. The sinister triangular eyes of the black Jiao python flickered with a venomous light. In this place, it was in charge of the life and death of these people. These people captured it and gave it a set of rules. As long as it followed the most basic rules, it could do whatever it wanted. The only rule it had to follow was that its body was not allowed to leave its original location. It could only guard the gap, and at the same time, it had to breathe out with its breath to block those who wanted to pass under its body. As for the other rules, it could do whatever it wanted. This meant that as long as it wanted to, it could kill without fear. Although the black Jiao python was cunning, it also understood that it couldn't afford to anger the crowd. If not, what would happen if everyone joined forces to kill it? It would die. A team might not be able to kill it, but what if 2 or 3 teams joined forces? The black Jiao python wouldn't provoke everyone to join forces. To these humans, the black Jiao python was a test. They would definitely think of a way to pass this test. Passing under its body was the simplest method. The black Jiao python didn't know that a young man in front of it was currently contemplating. Its eyes flickered with a strange light. Although this black Jiao python is powerful, if we can recruit more people to our side, we would be able to kill it easily. Wouldn't this go against the original purpose of the immortal martial realm? Wouldn't there be other unforeseen circumstances? Qin Wentian silently speculated. He felt that there might be a possibility, hence, they couldn't do this. But if the black Jiao python was intentionally making things difficult for them, wouldn't it be too much for their team to join forces? If not, if they had to think of a way to pass, Qin Wentian was confident that he would be able to withstand the black Jiao python's attacks. But what about Yiling Shuang, Fan Lu, and the others? Fan Lu was also staring at the black Jiao python. Staring at its venomous eyes, a strange light flickered in Fan Li's eyes as he transmitted his voice to Qin Wentian, "Boss, should we kill this beast?" Qin Wentian didn't feel anything strange when he heard Fan Li's words. Fatty had always been bold. Since this black Jiao python had designs on them, they had no other choice but to act. Fuck. Qin Wentian spat out a word, causing the surrounding crowd to be stunned. Why did this fellow suddenly say such a vulgar word? Even a beast dares to be so arrogant. An evil light flickered in Fan Li's eyes. As the sound of his voice faded, the hearts of the spectators shuddered. Seems like these fellows didn't intend to follow the rules of the immortal martial realm. The test was supposed to be conducted by walking past the black Jiao python, yet these fellows were prepared to make a move. However, this was in line with everyone's wishes. If they were to fight, wouldn't they be able to pass through easily? When they thought of this, they couldn't help but laugh in their hearts. They didn't know if these few fellows would be able to deal with the black Jiao python. Although they had the advantage in numbers, in front of absolute strength, numbers were nothing. If the black Jiao python in front of them was a 5th level Heavenly Dipper sovereign, it would be useless even if all of them attacked together. If they couldn't even break through the defenses of the black Jiao python, wouldn't that be courting death? However, if the black Jiao python was only at the 3rd level of Heavenly Dipper, it wouldn't be a problem for them to kill it. But if there were only Qin Wentian and the others, it would be extremely difficult for them to do so. The defense of demonic beasts was innately strong, and this black Jiao python had the unique characteristics of a flood dragon. Its scales gleamed with a cold light, and in addition to its cultivation base, even 1st level Heavenly Dipper sovereigns would find it difficult to break through its defenses. These 8 were truly audacious. Are you guys courting death? The gigantic body of the black Jiao python wriggled on the spot, unceasingly inhaling and exhaling black mist. The corrosive energy contained within was extremely terrifying. We mustn't be struck by the black mist. The corrosive energy can easily corrode our bodies, turning us into a pool of blood. Mu Feng reminded, as everyone nodded their heads. Those with bloodlines all activated their bloodlines. Bloodlines were innate abilities, the immortal martial realm naturally wouldn't suppress them. Stab its eyes blind. Qin Wentian spoke in a low voice. Fan Lo nodded his head in agreement. The eyes of this beast are extremely despicable. It actually dared to stare at Sister Ling Shuang. Despicable indeed. Ouyang Guangsheng cast a deep glance at Fan Lo, causing Fan Lo to silently curse in his heart. What did Ouyang Guangsheng mean by this? Was he scolding the locust tree while pointing at the mulberry tree? The gaze of a fatty staring at a beauty wasn't despicable, it was filled with admiration. Do it. As the sound of Qin Wentian's voice faded, the countenances of the others turned solemn. After which, Qin Wentian took the lead and dashed out, activating the fiend transformation art. A set of demonic wings appeared on his back, ready to protect him at any moment. Die! The black Jiao python spat out a mouthful of black mist at Qin Wentian. The terrifying corrosive energy permeated the air, and at the instant it breathed out, Fan Lo and Chu Mang's arrows already shot out, aiming for the eyes of the black Jiao python. Upon seeing the arrows shooting towards it, the black Jiao python closed its eyes and used its perception to sense them. It breathed out another mouthful of black mist, chasing after Qin Wentian who was using stellar transposition. A long spear appeared in Qin Wentian's hands. It wasn't a divine weapon, it was just an ordinary mortal spear. Using stellar transposition, his silhouette instantly appeared in the air as he stabbed his spear towards the eyes of the black Jiao python with the speed of a bolt of lightning. The black Jiao python opened its jaws wide, wanting to swallow Qin Wentian whole. If Qin Wentian dared to come any closer, it would swallow both Qin Wentian and his spear whole. Mu Feng. Qin Wentian called out. Mu Feng's silhouette transformed into a blur as he blasted out a series of blood-colored palm imprints into the black Jiao python's jaws. After which, he instantly executed stellar transposition and retreated together with Qin Wentian. And indeed, at the instant they retreated, the black Jiao python abruptly closed its jaws, causing the space around it to tremble. However, the blood-colored palm imprints had already been blasted into the black Jiao python's jaws. So it turned out that Qin Wentian's attack earlier was merely a feint. The black Jiao python was enraged. Its gigantic head dashed towards Qin Wentian and the others. Its body was extremely long, hence it didn't need to move to control its attacks. It spat out another mouthful of black mist, wanting to engulf Qin Wentian and the others within it. Ice Seal. Yunmengyi's ice attribute energy instantly enveloped the black mist. In that instant, Fan Lo and Chu Mang's arrows frenziedly shot into the black Jiao python's jaws, causing the black Jiao python to howl in rage. Qin Jing blasted out with his palms as his spatial energy enveloped the entire room. His palms flickered to the side as he sucked the black mist away. Roar, roar. The black Jiao python let out howls of agony. Evidently, the poison in its body had taken effect. How could Qin Wentian and Ouyang Guangsheng be polite? They immediately dashed into the air, frenziedly attacking the opened eyes of the black Jiao python. How powerful was Qin Wentian's spear technique? Furthermore, he was attacking the weak eyes of the black Jiao python, causing it to howl in agony. Ouyang Guangsheng's thunder god slash caused its eyeballs to explode. Before we recover our cultivation bases, it's best not to antagonize these people. Many mused in their hearts. It wasn't that Qin Wentian and the others were strong. After all, there were many heaven chosen among those who entered. However, Qin Wentian's group of 8 were decisive and ruthless in their attacks. The key point was that they seemed to have a very good relationship with each other, and had a tacit understanding with each other. This caused people to feel trepidation in their hearts. Sure enough, it didn't take long for the black Jiao python to be killed by the 8 of them on the spot. Its huge body lay there lifelessly. That damned fatty actually jumped onto the black Jiao python's corpse and fiercely stomped on it. Let's go. Qin Wentian's heart didn't fluctuate too much. They had only just entered the immortal martial realm. Since the others could save themselves some trouble, they naturally followed after them. There were even some who stared at Qin Wentian's back as cold light flickered in their eyes. Although there were tests in the immortal martial realm, there would definitely be good fortune later on. Although they hadn't fought against each other yet, the moment they fought for treasures, the fire in their hearts would definitely erupt. Not long after, Qin Wentian was dumbfounded. Not only him, everyone else was dumbfounded as well. Boom! A thunderous sound rang out, causing the hearts of everyone to tremble. Boom, boom, boom. Thunderous sounds rang out unceasingly, causing the hearts of everyone to pound. These thunderous sounds were the sounds of footsteps. In front of them, a gigantic demon with a height of over 100 meters appeared. Its head was as large as a house, and one had to tilt their head upwards to see it. Its feet covered a distance of over 10 meters, and the place it stepped on was the only exit for them. Nobody had any thoughts of fighting. This gigantic demon resembled an ox demon. It seemed to be in a deep slumber, repeating the same action over and over again. Lifting its feet and stomping down, the rhythm was sometimes fast and sometimes slow. Even if it maintained the slowest rhythm, if one wanted to pass through, they would still need the extreme speed of someone at the peak of Heavenly Dipper. And if it increased its rhythm, even a third-level Heavenly Dipper sovereign with a second-level mandate of wind at the transformation boundary wouldn't be able to pass through. In other words, if one encountered a fast rhythm, only death awaited them. If one encountered a slow rhythm, it would depend on one's speed first and luck second. Everyone shut their mouths. Other than the thunderous rumbling sounds, there were no other sounds. Everyone was conversing through voice transmissions. They were afraid that if they were the slightest bit careless, they might wake up the gigantic demon. If that happened, only death would await them. The gigantic demon could trample them to death with a single stomp. Based on our current cultivation base, even if we use stellar transposition, we won't be able to pass through the fast rhythm. But if it's a medium rhythm, we can still use stellar transposition. Qin Wentian and the rest exchanged voice transmissions. Stellar transposition was an innate technique that they had all cultivated. Nobody dared to cause trouble for them. As long as we don't encounter a fast rhythm, we will be fine. Anyone who encounters it would die. Very swiftly, they came to a consensus. Sister Ling Shuang, let me carry you. Qin Wentian spoke to Yi Ling Shuang. He was the most proficient in stellar transposition. His bloodline power and other movement techniques had no way to stack his speed with stellar transposition. Hence, this time around, he could only rely on stellar transposition. Yi Ling Shuang, who had already communicated through voice transmissions, could only nod her head in agreement. After which, she climbed onto Qin Wentian's back, allowing Qin Wentian to carry her. However, before them, there was already someone who was preparing to move. That person had a pair of wings on his back as his mandate of wind enveloped his body. Evidently, this person was someone who excelled in speed. At the instant the gigantic demon lifted its foot, his body was like a gust of wind as he sped forward. Fast, so fast that only afterimages could be seen. The hearts of the crowd pounded rapidly, only to see the gigantic foot stomping down once more. That person was already on the verge of passing through. Bang! As the foot stomped down, the hearts of the crowd instantly stopped beating. The gigantic foot lifted up once more, only to see that there was nothing in front of them. Only bloodstains could be seen on the ground. The bodies of several people involuntarily trembled. Even with such speed, they still couldn't pass through. Earlier, that person's speed was only at a medium tempo. Many people had expressions of despair on their faces, they knew that the speed of that person earlier was already extremely fast. Who? Qin Wentian drew in a deep breath. Yi Lingshuang leaned on Qin Wentian's back as she spoke, "Wentian, I won't go over, I don't want to implicate you." If he didn't carry her on his back, Qin Wentian would have a higher chance of passing through. "Sister, believe in me." Qin Wentian spoke in a low voice. He walked to the foot of the gigantic demon and drew in a deep breath. Earlier, when he saw that person, he didn't choose the right timing. The instant the gigantic foot landed, Qin Wentian had already dashed out. Stellar transposition erupted at the instant the gigantic foot lifted up. He had calculated the timing to the most precise instant. Boom! When the gigantic foot stomped down once more, Qin Wentian's heart trembled. Yi Lingshuang, who was on his back, opened her eyes. She didn't die. Her beautiful eyes flashed with a bright light. He passed through. On the other side of the gigantic foot, the hearts of the crowd trembled. Such a movement technique was so fast. "It's my turn." Qin Zheng stepped forward, drawing in a deep breath as he did the exact same action as Qin Wentian. He passed. Qin Wentian and the rest all had expressions of excitement on their faces. But for the others, there were many who had expressions of jealousy on their faces. "Let me do it." Fan Lu walked out, his eyes flickering with excitement. Stellar transposition, he dashed out. Rumble. At the instant Fan Lu moved, a thunderous boom reverberated in the air, causing Qin Wentian's heart to tremble. It was as though a towering demonic qi was unleashed. Someone had used the power of lightning to awaken the gigantic demon. Staring at the gigantic foot that had just lifted up, Qin Wentian could see the look of despair on Fan Li's face. "No!" Qin Wentian howled in rage. "They have a movement technique on them, we can't let them pass." As Qin Wentian howled in rage, a person glared at Ouyang Guangsheng and the rest. Chapter 566. Boom! A thunderous sound rang out, causing Qin Wentian to feel as though a sharp blade had pierced right through his heart. Fan Lu had disappeared. That kick had caused Fatty to completely vanish, he didn't return. Qin Wentian's eyes instantly turned incomparably red, as though flames were gushing forth from them. Qin Wentian stared at the disappearing silhouette, it was as though he could see Fan Li's youthful silhouette. "Fatty, I'm a genius, Fatty isn't lecherous, I'm a philanthropist." That frivolous face appeared in his mind, but with a single kick, Fan Lu had completely vanished from his world. That shameless Fatty was Qin Wentian's earliest friend. To him, that Fatty was his best brother, a brother who had gone through life and death with him. He died. Qin Wentian had no way to accept this. Although he knew that the immortal martial realm wasn't an ordinary place, and that there was a high chance of death, when he saw Fan Lu vanishing right before his eyes, Qin Wentian still felt an intense pain in his heart. Yi Lingshuang's eyes also turned red. Ouyang Quansheng and Chu Mang howled in rage as they turned their heads to stare at the person who had awakened the gigantic demon. That person was a young man whose entire body was bathed in lightning, exuding an unmasked loftiness as he stared at Ouyang Quansheng and the rest with unmasked killing intent. Earlier, I'm sure all of you have already seen their identities. These people are all proficient in this type of movement technique. No matter what, we have to kill a few of them and force them to hand over their movement techniques. Only then would we have a higher chance of success. That young man faintly spoke. He was from the Violet Thunder sect and had long recognized Qin Wentian. Naturally, he could tell that Qin Wentian had an extraordinary relationship with these people. Before the Violet Thunder sect entered, they had received a mission stating that if anyone from the Battle Sword sect had the ability to take the lives of those from the Battle Sword sect, there was no need to be courteous. This order was issued by one of the 7 supremacies. It was said that this supremacy had spoiled his plans by treating Qin Wentian and the Holy Maiden of the Medicine Sovereign Valley, causing one of his disciples, Yi Kongfan, to die. For this debt, this supremacy had no way to settle it with Qin Wentian personally. Hence, he instructed those from the Violet Thunder sect to hunt down Qin Wentian's life. In addition, when the Violet Thunder sect saw the foot of the gigantic demon, they knew that they lacked a good movement technique. Although the movement techniques of the Violet Thunder sect weren't weak, they were inferior when compared to the stellar transposition. The stellar transposition was one of the 9 ultimate arts of Grand Xia. One could say that it was the easiest to learn out of the 9 ultimate arts of Grand Xia. Although Qin Wentian and the rest had cultivated the Blood Curse imprint, Thunder God Slash, and many other ultimate arts, they were merely proficient in it. The might they could unleash wasn't weak, but they were far from being proficient in it. Back then, Grand Xia was a power on the same level as the Grand Shang Empire. This meant that back then, Grand Xia was on the same level as the 9 great sections. For a movement technique like the stellar transposition, it could be considered a peak-tier movement technique in the royal sacred region. When the crowd saw that Qin Wentian, Qin Zheng and the rest knew it, as well as the words of the young man from the Violet Thunder sect, their eyes all brightened. Naturally, the crowd also noticed the gigantic demon. Although the gigantic demon was awakened, it didn't move at all. It merely grinned and continued stomping on the ground, causing everyone to understand that this gigantic demon was the same as the Black Jiao Python. This was a test for them and it wouldn't easily break the rules to kill them. It only wanted them to pass. However, after the ox demon woke up, its steps became even more chaotic. There were no longer any rhythm to its movements. Sometimes, it would simply lift its gigantic leg and hover in the air, baring its fangs. However, no one dared to approach it. Hand over the movement technique. Shirquan from the Heaven Crippling sect led his men and surrounded Ouyang Quansheng and the rest. His eyes flickered with a cold light. Shirquan was a Heaven's Chosen in the Supreme Demon sect, and when he exchanged glances with Qin Wentian earlier, a hint of trepidation appeared in his heart. This was simply a humiliation. Ouyang Quansheng, Yunmengyi, Chu Mang and Mu Feng were all surrounded. All of you can die. Ouyang Quansheng roared in rage. Lightning and fire flickered around him as he released his astral souls. Rushing out, he stomped towards the young man from the Violet Thunder sect as a gigantic palm imprint appeared in the air, slamming outwards. Lightning? Why would people from my Violet Thunder sect fear lightning? The arrogance of the young man from the Violet Thunder sect grew even thicker. He, Kei Cheng, had always been brooding over the fact that he didn't obtain the Immortal Martial Medallion. And now, a nameless nobody actually dared to act against him. Wrath of the Thunder God. Kei Cheng howled in rage, causing the entire space to tremble. Bolts of lightning tore through the air, shattering Ouyang Quansheng's attack into pieces. Thunder God Slash. Ouyang Quansheng roared as a beam of lightning slashed downwards. That oppressive might of lightning caused Kei Cheng to feel a chill in his heart. What a powerful innate technique. Although Ouyang Guangsheng had no way to unleash the true might of the Thunder God Slash, how could Kei Cheng not be able to tell how powerful this innate technique was? A bright light flashed as Kei Cheng released his astral souls. A pair of lightning wings appeared on his back, as terrifying lightning runes manifested around him, clashing together with the Thunder God Slash. The tyrannical might of the lightning caused the entire space to tremble unceasingly. The others from the Violet Thunder sect didn't act. If they helped Ouyang Guangsheng, it would be an insult to Kei Cheng. Kei Cheng was a personal disciple of one of the 7 supremacies. His status in the Violet Thunder sect was even higher compared to Yi Kongfan whom Qin Wentian killed. His talent was also higher, but he didn't manage to obtain the Immortal Martial Medallion. Although the Immortal Martial Realm Medallion was sent to the Violet Thunder sect, it was given to someone else. And it was precisely because of that person that the supremacy of the Violet Thunder sect personally made a trip to the Yi country. Ouyang Guangsheng was forced backwards as a rune blasted into his body. Although it was only the aftershock of the attack, it still left a bloody wound on his chest. If they don't hand over their movement arts, cripple them one by one. That woman, take off her clothes, let's see if these people will hand it over or not. A venomous voice rang out from the mouth of a young man from another alliance. Ouyang Guangsheng turned his gaze over as his countenance abruptly changed. There were simply too many people on the floating bridge and he hadn't noticed this person before. But now that he took a closer look, he actually saw someone he was familiar with. The great Solar Qin clan back then had 3 heavens chosen. These 3 obtained the 3 sacred royal medallions of the Great Solar Qin clan. 2 of them were Qin Fan and Great Solar Qin King, but both of them died. Only one of them managed to escape after the Great Solar Qin clan was destroyed. Qin Zhao was once a famous character on the Heavenly Fate rankings. He rose to fame even earlier than Qin Fan and Qin Wang, and was a character that could shake the wind and clouds in Grand Xia. After the Great Solar Qin clan was destroyed, Qin Zhao left Grand Xia with the sacred royal medallion as well as the conviction of revenge. After that, he joined the Great Earth sect. Qin Wentian didn't know Qin Zhao. If not, back then when he was in Xian King City, he would have already noticed Qin Zhao's existence when the Great Earth sect invited him to join. It was precisely because Qin Zhao spoke to an expert from the Great Earth sect that the Great Earth sect wanted to recruit Qin Wentian. Qin Zhao told the expert from the Great Earth sect that Qin Wentian had an immortal art on him. After entering the immortal martial realm, Qin Zhao had always been searching for an opportunity to deal with Qin Wentian. Now that there was someone who acted against Ouyang Guangsheng, Qin Zhao didn't mind saying a few words to sow discord. Qin Zhao, back then when you participated in the Heavenly Fate rankings, I was still a young boy. When I saw your glory, I couldn't help but feel respect for you. Who would have thought that you would have already fallen to such a state now? How sad. Ouyang Guangsheng stared at Qin Zhao, his words causing Qin Zhao to frown. Ouyang Guangsheng actually knew him. On the other side, Yi Lingshuang stared at Qin Wentian as she called out, "Wentian. I have to go back." Qin Wentian once again stood at the foot of the gigantic foot, causing Yi Lingshuang's heart to pound. Every stomp of the gigantic foot of death could claim his life. If Qin Wentian wanted to go back, he would have to come back here again. Not only that, the gigantic foot of death was still conscious. "I'll accompany you." Yi Lingshuang gritted her teeth. "No, Sister Lingshuang, you and Qin Jing stay here. If those who acted against Ouyang Guangsheng and the others come over, just attack them and kill them." Qin Wentian turned his head and stared at Yi Lingshuang, his countenance solemn. Yi Lingshuang knew that it would be even more dangerous if she went over, hence she could only nod her head in agreement. Qin Wentian's words caused the hearts of those on the other side to pound. Regardless of those from the Violet Thunder sect or the Heaven Crippling sect, they had actually neglected the fact that Qin Wentian could kill them from the other side. But very swiftly, Kei Cheng's furrowed brows relaxed. They had people in their hands, what was there to be afraid of? They wanted to see if Qin Zheng and Yi Lingshuang would dare to act against them. Wentian, don't come over, you stay there as well, Ouyang Guangsheng shouted. It was too dangerous for Qin Wentian to come over. Not only that, there were too many people on the other side. Even if Qin Wentian came over, there would only be a path of death for him. No. Qin Wentian's gaze was resolute as he spoke, I'll go over and accompany you all. Sister Lingshuang, if anything happens to us, don't spare any of us. Kill every single one that comes. Since you all want to play, just stay here forever. Qin Wentian's voice was filled with decisiveness, his words causing the countenances of those on the other side to turn pale. This fellow had gone mad. If anything happened to them, they would all be buried together with them. The people on this floating bridge would all remain in the immortal martial realm. Boom! Astral light flashed as a thunderous boom rang out. Qin Wentian activated stellar transposition, he had to go over there no matter what. He had 2 lives, and even if he died in the immortal martial realm, he would still have a body. He had to take revenge, he had to bring Ouyang Guangsheng and the others over. Interesting. Qin Wentian didn't notice that the gigantic demon in the air had a grin on his face as an expression of interest flashed in his eyes. When Qin Wentian appeared beneath his feet, the gigantic demon stomped down once again. No. Yi Lingshuang paled when she saw this scene. Not only her, Ouyang Guangsheng and Chu Mang were all howling in terror. Yun Mengyi's countenance turned pale as well. Rumble. A thunderous sound echoed out. No matter how strong Qin Wentian was, nothing remained of him. Vile beast. Ouyang Guangsheng inclined his head, staring at the gigantic demon in the air. That gigantic demon grinned as it stared at Ouyang Guangsheng, little brat, are you courting death? I'm not afraid of you. Ouyang Guangsheng howled in rage. Lightning crackled around him as he lunged towards the gigantic demon in the air. The gigantic demon grinned again as it lifted its gigantic foot and moved forward, causing the hearts of the spectators to tremble. This fellow could move his foot as he wished. Run! Everyone frantically fled, only to see the gigantic foot descending from the skies, pressing down on Ouyang Guangsheng. It was simply invincible. Qin Wentian initially thought that he had died, but in reality, he didn't. That gigantic foot didn't crush him flat, but rather, it brought him to another dimension. His heart pounded wildly, unable to calm down even after a long time. Qin Wentian closed his eyes and drew in a deep breath as he stared at the cave dwelling in front of him. Path of life and death. 3 words were engraved on the exterior of the cave dwelling, causing Qin Wentian to feel as though he had found a new lease of life. He didn't die. In that case, Fatty definitely didn't die as well. Chapter 567. Qin Wentian walked out of the cavern. This cavern named the Path of Life and Death was extremely spacious, and there was an old ox standing there. That's right, this ox demon was standing like a human, causing Qin Wentian to feel somewhat awkward. But when he looked at the features of this ox demon, Qin Wentian also felt that it was extremely unique. Because this ox demon had an appearance, it could be distinguished from other ox demons, just like how there were differences in the appearances of different humans. It was easy to differentiate humans from humans, but when you looked at demons of the same species, you would feel that they were all the same. This ox demon was different from the rest, it clearly contained a trace of human spiritual qi. Not only that, it was none other than the gigantic demon outside. Are you very strange? The body of the old ox wasn't as gigantic as before. He stared at Qin Wentian as he grinned, the gigantic demon outside and the current me, are merely my clones. I'm in charge of managing the cavern of life and death in the immortal martial realm. Qin Wentian's countenance stiffened. In that case, there were many mysterious places in the immortal martial realm that were managed by different experts. Senior Ox, my speed isn't slow at all. I should be able to pass that test, right? Isn't this test a little too unfair? Qin Wentian asked. Huh, little brat, you want to talk about fairness with me? Letting you come to the cavern of life and death earlier is already giving you face. Let me tell you the truth, for those who are slow, I stomped them to death for real. You were also stomped by me, but just like what you said, your speed isn't slow, hence I didn't stomp you to death and sent you to the cavern of life and death. But don't be so lucky, there are only two paths in the cavern of life and death. The ox demon stared at Qin Wentian as he grinned. There are 4 great tests in the cavern of life and death. The cavern of cultivation base, the cavern of innate techniques, the cavern of martial intent, and the cavern of combat. Now, you can choose which type of test you want to accept. Listen to me clearly, if you pass the test, you will live. If you fail, you will die. There is no third path. Qin Wentian frowned. It was useless to reason with these old demons. Since he was brought here, he could only obediently accept the test, there was no other choice. But why did the ox demon say that he would be sent here earlier? Could it be that if he walked along the pontoon bridge, he would also enter the life and death cave? What's the difference between the 4 tests? Qin Wentian asked. Idiot, you can tell the difference just by listening to the name. Cultivation realm. If you break through your cultivation realm within a certain period of time, you will pass. The old ox pointed out, causing Qin Wentian's heart to tremble. In that case, the life and death cave of the divine ability required a certain period of time to comprehend the divine ability. The life and death cave of martial intent required a certain amount of time to break through the will of martial arts. So ruthless. Qin Wentian cursed in his heart. It was not easy to break through the realm. This was definitely not an option. In this case, he could only choose the other 3 assessments. Isn't it too difficult for me to make a breakthrough within the limited time? Qin Wentian asked again. What do you want to say? Just ask directly, don't play any tricks. Little brat, I will give you a hint. Other than the life and death cave of the divine ability, I will allow you to comprehend the other 3 assessments first. This is a type of good fortune, I wouldn't even allow ordinary people to come here. The old ox grinned, his expression gleaming with an evil light. He stared at Qin Wentian. Have you made your choice? I have 4 types of mandates. Qin Wentian replied. You can choose any one of them first. As long as it is within my control, I will allow you to enter. The old ox spoke. Some of the mandates belonged to the more bizarre ones and weren't within his control. But for ordinary mandates, they could be found in the immortal martial realm. Demon. Qin Wentian gambled. Release your will of the mandate of demons. The old ox grinned. Qin Wentian released his mandate of demons, allowing the old ox to sense it. At this moment, Qin Wentian's suppressed cultivation base and mandates were all released. The old ox turned and entered a cavern. An instant later, he walked out again and stared at Qin Wentian. His gaze caused Qin Wentian's hairs to stand on end. 2 hours. Perfect your mandate of demons and pass the life and death cave of the divine ability. If not, you fail. The old ox grinned, causing Qin Wentian's countenance to instantly turn pale. Senior ox, are you joking? 2 hours. Perfection of mandates. What a joke. If 2 hours could allow one's mandate to reach the perfection boundary, wouldn't there be countless people with mandates at the perfection boundary everywhere in the royal sacred region? This place is the life and death cave of the divine ability. There's only life or death, there's no such thing as jokes. Now, I have already started the countdown. The old ox's smile was exceptionally radiant. Bastard. Qin Wentian cursed in a low voice. After which, he rushed out and entered the cavern. He knew that it was useless even if he spoke to the old ox. In this place, the old ox was the overlord. Unless he could kill the old ox, there was no way he could reason with him. Within the cavern, astral light flowed about, it was exceptionally resplendent. It was as though he was in a miraculous dimension. Everything around him vanished as he appeared in front of a mountain range. In front of him, there was a young black hawk. This black hawk was very small, it was slowly learning how to fly. Its tiny wings flapped about, exuding an aura of cuteness. Its wings gradually developed as the black hawk grew bigger. It began to soar in the air, from slow to fast. Gradually, it became as fast as lightning, akin to a raging gale. In the process of its flight, its wings grew more and more plump as its eyes grew sharper and more mature. It began to hunt. The black hawk soared through the air, slammed into the waves, and fought against demonic beasts. Its eyes gradually turned cold, tyrannical, and filled with a boundless sharpness. It swooped down from the sky, its sharp claws tearing apart the giant python. It invaded the demonic beast forest, slaughtering powerful demonic beasts. Its entire body exuded an aura of disdain, looking down on the entire world. The black hawk grew stronger and stronger. Its wingspan spanned over 1,000 meters, transforming into a tyrant of the skies. It stood at the peak of a mountain, staring down at everything below. With just a single glance, it caused the myriad of demonic beasts to submit. With a flap of its wings, it soared up into the skies, forcing the other demonic beasts to retreat. Qin Wentian was like a spectator, standing in the middle of a painting. Wherever the black hawk was, he would be there. He could clearly sense that tyrannical aura, that arrogance that looked down on the entire world, as well as that loneliness and stubbornness. It was a demon that fought against the heavens and earth. It stood on the ground, staring up at the skies as though it wanted to tear the heavens apart. When the painting vanished, Qin Wentian felt that he was still in the painting. He kept on recalling the scenes of the past. The mandate of demons was naturally comprehended from the bodies of demonic beasts. If one wanted to achieve perfection in their mandates, they had to truly comprehend the loneliness of demonic beasts, the arrogance of demonic beasts, and the disdain of demonic beasts. Qin Wentian closed his eyes, temporarily forgetting the flow of time. Demonic chi gushed forth from him, as faint sounds of roaring could be heard. The astral energy in his body gushed forth frenziedly, plundering astral energy from the surrounding space, causing it to unceasingly flow into his body. However, the breakthrough of one's mandate wasn't so simple. Although one's comprehension was improving, if one wanted to break through, it wasn't something that could be accomplished overnight. Qin Wentian didn't know the flow of time, but very quickly, over an hour had already passed. Qin Wentian suddenly thought back to the time when the Pill Emperor Hall was in the form of a primordial great rock. When he was in the form of a primordial great rock, he disrupted the heavens and earth, cleaving apart the Pill Emperor Hall with his sword. At that time, he had never seriously examined himself. Everywhere he passed by, all demonic beasts would submit to him. Standing at the peak of a mountain, he stared disdainfully at the demonic beasts in the forest. How lofty was that? Usually, when he used his mandate of demons, although he still exuded the aura of a primordial great rock, it wasn't as realistic as when he was in the form of a primordial great rock. Because at that time, he was a true demon. Actually, I've long since experienced what the mandate of demons is like. When I transformed into a primordial great rock, I was already the purest form of a demonic beast. Naturally, I would be at the perfection boundary of the mandate of demons. Qin Wentian silently mused. His eyes were tightly clenched as demonic chi enveloped him. The demonic chi radiating from him seemed to give birth to a pair of demonic wings. In the center of his brows, a terrifying sharpness could be sensed. It was as though he wanted to return to the time when he was in the form of a primordial great rock. A terrifying demonic chi gushed forth, engulfing his entire person within. Roaring sounds thundered out, causing the entire cavern to tremble. Finally, Qin Wentian opened his eyes, exuding a demonic aura. Lofty, disdainful, cold, and proud. Rumble. The demonic chi gushed forth, slamming into the air above the cavern. Qin Wentian stood up, turned, and walked out. After exiting the cavern, Qin Wentian faced the ox demon. His back was drenched in cold sweat. He had completely immersed himself in the process of comprehending the mandate of demons. He had forgotten the passage of time, but even so, he still used nearly 2 hours. Such a test was truly a path of death. Congratulations on passing the test of the cavern of life and death. The ox demon laughed. However, Qin Wentian wasn't as excited as he had imagined. He asked, "Since Senior's clone is in charge of the test, you should know about the situation of my friends. Did they pass?" Fan Lu should have been dragged into the cavern of life and death as well. What he didn't know was that after he was dragged into the cavern, the ox demon madly stomped a few times on the ground, causing the thousands of participants to flee in panic. Ouyang Guangsheng was also dragged into the cavern of life and death. "You want to help him?" The old ox grinned, as though he had ill intentions. "Yes." Qin Wentian nodded his head. "If you take the test one more time, I might consider sparing him. You don't only have one of your friends taking the test." The words of the old ox caused Qin Wentian's countenance to turn ashen. Take the test one more time. Breaking through to the mandate of demons was already a huge stroke of luck. If it wasn't for him transforming into a great rock back then, he would have already died here today. If he were to take the test one more time, one could very well imagine how dangerous it would be. The test of the cavern of life and death is an extremely important test in the immortal martial realm. It concerns the rankings of the immortal martial realm, and it can even allow one's strength to evolve. Why not? The old ox continued to tempt Qin Wentian. Bullshit. Qin Wentian silently cursed in his heart. Rankings? He didn't care about it at all. The evolution of his strength was what he wanted, but first, he had to pass the test before it could be considered a transformation. If he didn't pass, it would only be a path of death. If I take the test one more time, would Senior agree to help my 2 friends? Qin Wentian asked. I will consider it myself. The test of the cavern of life and death shall be decided by me. The old ox still had a mischievous smile on his face. Qin Wentian had no way to get more information out of him. Fine, I will choose the innate techniques test. I hope that Senior will keep your words. Qin Wentian steeled his heart. Other than Fan Lu, the ox demon said that there was another person taking the test. He didn't know if he would be able to pass or not. Qin Wentian could only go all out. If he died, that would be his life. He still had a body, and the lives of his brothers were more precious than his. Chapter 568. The ox demon laughed when he heard Qin Wentian's words. After which, he asked, "Release all the mandates you're proficient in for me to see." Qin Wentian didn't reply. He released all 4 of his mandates. The ox demon continued, "In order to lower the difficulty of the test, I'll allow you to choose any innate technique you want. For example, sword innate techniques, illusionary innate techniques, hammer-type innate techniques, or demonic innate techniques. Think carefully, this is the test of the cavern of life and death, it's not a joke. If you fail, you will die for sure. As the controller of the cavern of life and death, I have to abide by this rule." Since Qin Wentian had already made his choice, he didn't feel any more burdens. His mind started to ponder. In recent years, he had been trying to comprehend innate techniques using his mandates. His halberd arts and spear arts were all created by himself, and they were very suitable for him. He had also cultivated the ultimate arts of Grand Xia before. For example, the blood curse imprint was a palm art. However, he wasn't proficient in the blood curse imprint, hence it was impossible for him to cultivate it to grand completion. He was very clear that if an innate technique was powerful, it would have to be intimately integrated with one's mandate. The test should be in this direction as well. And for his mandates, the first three could be intimately integrated with palm arts. His halberd arts and spear arts weren't weak, and his sword arts were strong as well. I choose palm innate techniques, Qin Wentian stated. Okay, please wait a moment. The ox demon stepped into the cavern again. This time around, Qin Wentian seriously observed the interior of the cavern only to see that one of the walls had already lit up. It was actually a golden stone wall that transformed into a library. This library was like a treasure vault, and the ox demon seemed to be searching for something inside. The ox demon knew that Qin Wentian was watching, but he didn't stop him. Qin Wentian, on the other hand, was extremely shocked in his heart. Right now, he could already confirm some of the rumors regarding the immortal martial realm. The master of the immortal martial realm was most probably an immortal existence. It was just that he didn't know if he was still alive or not. If not, it would be impossible for him to possess such an independent world. This immortal martial realm was like a gigantic treasure trove. There were so many ancient sects in the royal sacred region, yet none of them dared to covet it. Before long, the cavern dimmed. The ox demon walked out and said to Qin Wentian, "You can go in now. This time, I'll give you 1 day. If the palm technique you comprehend is recognized, you'll pass the test. Otherwise, if you fail, you'll die. Fortunately, we have a day this time." Qin Wentian secretly felt lucky. If it was another 2 hours, then it would really be a dead end. He knew very well how long it took him to comprehend the divine ability in the past. 1 day was already very, very short. Luckily, there should be another scene in the cavern. Qin Wentian once again stepped into the cavern. Astral light flashed, and as expected, he once again stood in the middle of the cavern. The astral light weaved together to form a picture, as though he was once again in a mysterious space. In this space, Qin Wentian saw a silhouette. This silhouette stood in the air with his back facing him. His palms were incomparably resplendent, interweaving with terrifying astral light. His palms were extremely stable, not moving in the slightest. However, at this instant, the arm of the silhouette moved. Lifting his hand, a palm imprint blasted out, blasting towards the sky. In an instant, this palm imprint was so powerful that it seemed as though it wanted to shatter the constellations in the sky. Bang! Above the sky, a gigantic palm imprint appeared, imprinting itself onto the sky. The 5-fingered palm imprint seemed to be engraved into the hearts of everyone present. Although it didn't hit anything, the effect of this palm was even more terrifying, leaving behind a gigantic palm imprint in the air. Under this palm, what couldn't be destroyed? That silhouette retracted his palm and blasted out another palm strike, repeating the same action over and over again. Above the sky, incomparably clear gigantic palm imprints appeared unceasingly, causing the entire sky to tremble as though it was about to collapse. Such a pure palm imprint, I can't even tell what kind of mandate is contained within it. Or perhaps, this palm imprint is the purest of palm imprint innate techniques, able to suit any mandate. As long as it's strong, it'll be strong. Qin Wentian silently mused. This palm imprint didn't have any secret manuals, nor did it have any usage methods. There was only this scene that was repeated over and over again. This was something he had to comprehend himself, comprehending a palm technique that belonged to him. The myriad of innate techniques were all created by humans. No matter how powerful an innate technique was, it was still created by an expert and was constantly perfected. With regards to this point, Qin Wentian was very clear in his heart. For example, he had cultivated halberd arts since a long time ago, but the halberd arts he created back then were extremely weak. But as he grew stronger, his halberd arts grew stronger as well. And now, he even created the void halberd art. Not only was its might terrifying, it was also capable of bewitching the hearts of others. As he thought of this, Qin Wentian stretched out his palms. He thought of the 1,000 hands imprint and lifted his palms, blasting them out in the air. He simply infused the mandate of force and the mandate of demons into his palms, but the power he could unleash was extremely limited. It was as though over 1,000 palm imprints had appeared. Qin Wentian's aura changed. The will of the mandate of demons at the perfection boundary gushed forth. He was lofty, cold, and disdainful as he stood there, unexcelled in the world. Boom! He blasted out another palm imprint, causing the entire space to tremble. With the augmentation of the mandate of demons, the might of his palm imprint had clearly increased. The final stance of the Thousand Hands imprint, the Great Thousand Hands imprint, is the quintessence of this innate technique. Back then when I was cultivating in the Emperor Star Academy, I was still too weak. But now, I should be able to better fuse it with my mandate of force. The Thousand Hands imprint has a myriad of palm imprints, and the second level of my mandate of force, the Void Shockwave. If these palm imprints were to stack together and transform into a shockwave, the might of the attack would be 100 times greater. As Qin Wentian thought of this, he focused on the mandate of force. Using the Thousand Hands imprint as the foundation, he executed it over and over again, causing himself to sink into a trance. It was as though he was in the same space as that silhouette. Both of them unceasingly blasted out palm imprints, yet Qin Wentian's palm imprints had no way to leave a mark in the air. In the blink of an eye, a day passed. Right now, Qin Wentian's palm arts were already extremely powerful. With a single palm strike, the myriad of palm imprints converged into a powerful current, sweeping through the entire space, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. This was especially so when he infused his mandate of demons and divine energy into his palm imprints, causing the might of his palm imprints to be even more tyrannical. However, he still wasn't able to leave a mark in the air. He knew that leaving a mark in the air was the symbol of success. Time's up. Qin Wentian lowered his arms as he spoke. A day's worth of time was truly too short. It was simply too difficult to leave a mark in the air. Focus on comprehending. I forgot to tell you that the cavern is actually a grand illusion realm, causing you to feel as though time flowed extremely quickly. In reality, only an hour has passed. The voice of the ox demon drifted over, causing Qin Wentian to freeze as he cursed in a low voice, "You tricked me. Humph, how can this lord's words be a joke? If you don't complete the test within a day, you will die for sure. It's just that you are trapped in a grand illusion realm, causing you to have a misperception of time, as though you are in a dream." The cold voice of the ox demon drifted over, causing Qin Wentian's heart to tremble. He believed the words of the ox demon. Sometimes, a long time would pass in a dream, but in truth, only a short moment had passed. He had experienced this before in the royal tomb, and it was extremely clear to him. It was just that this ox demon was truly sinister, he actually didn't tell him about this before. But luckily, he still had plenty of time to comprehend. Illusionary realm, dreamland, and reality are only separated by a single thought. Qin Wentian silently mused. He unceasingly waved his palms, attempting to infuse the mandate of dreams into the Thousand Hands imprint, wanting to trigger a qualitative change, just like his void halberd. It was very difficult. Without the ancient halberd as a medium, it would require a complete fusion. But the Great Thousand Hands imprint required millions of palm imprints at different frequencies. The formless force ripples of the Great Thousand Hands imprint were difficult to fuse with. Pulsation, I have to find the common pulsation frequency. Just like the huge waves of the sea, when all the waves burst forth at the same time, it would be akin to a tsunami. If my void shockwaves were to fuse together with the Thousand Hands imprint, transforming into a single palm imprint, how powerful would that be? Qin Wentian quickly immersed himself in his cultivation, forgetting the passage of time. His palm imprints grew stronger and stronger. Qin Wentian unceasingly blasted out tens of millions of palm imprints with boundless might. However, these tens of millions of palm imprints gradually converged, turning into hundreds of palm imprints, which then turned into tens of palm imprints. But the might of the palm imprints only grew more and more terrifying. The earlier palm imprints flowed like the waves of the sea, while the latter palm imprints were like raging waves crashing against the shore. The formless void shockwaves were completely fused together with the palm imprints, erupting forth at the very last instant. Qin Wentian was in this space for the 9th day. The silhouette in front of him was still unceasingly waving his palm imprints. Qin Wentian did the same as well. Thunderous rumbling sounds shook the heavens and earth as a heaven-shaking aura flowed about. Ultimately, all of it transformed into a single palm strike, leaving behind a single mark in the air. However, Qin Wentian didn't stop. He continued his attempts, unceasingly leaving behind a gigantic palm imprint in the air. Until one instant, when Qin Wentian waved his palm once more, a towering aura gushed forth, yet no palm imprints appeared. Nothing was blasted out. Boom! Abruptly, a thunderous sound thundered out. In the air, an incomparably gigantic palm imprint slammed down, causing the hearts of those who saw it to tremble. Qin Wentian laughed. This palm strike was even stronger than his void halberd. This innate technique shall be named the Great Void Thousand Imprints. Qin Wentian silently mused. However, the amount of astral energy consumed by this strike was simply too terrifying. As he thought of the amount of astral energy in his body, Qin Wentian discovered that all 4 of his yuanfu were completely emptied. But since he didn't die, it meant that the time limit wasn't up yet. He had already passed the test. You can cultivate in there. The ox demon's voice drifted over, as though he knew what Qin Wentian was thinking. Qin Wentian's heart was filled with joy. The astral energy in this cavern was extremely dense, it was definitely a heavenly paradise. How could he miss this opportunity? He immediately sat down and began his cultivation. After the astral energy in his 4 yuanfu was replenished, Qin Wentian exited the cavern only to see the ox demon smiling at him. Your strength has improved again. Do you want to thank me? Or do you want to try again? Will there be any rewards for passing 3 consecutive tests in the cavern of life and death? Qin Wentian furrowed his brows as he asked. Naturally, if you pass 3 consecutive tests in the cavern of life and death, I will send you to a good place to accept a challenge. If you can pass, you will be able to obtain some good stuff in advance. The ox demon grinned. Good. Next, I will take the test of martial intent, the mandate of force. Qin Wentian's furrowed brows relaxed. After which, he mimicked the ox demon and grinned. He stared at his opponent as he released his will of mandates. This was the transformation boundary of the 2nd level. Seeing the smile on Qin Wentian's face, the smile on the ox demon's face vanished as a strange expression appeared on his face. I've been tricked. The ox demon silently cursed as he stared at Qin Wentian. Seems like you were already on the verge of breaking through and were intentionally trying to trick me. Brat, you better remember this. After speaking, the ox demon turned and entered the cavern again. The smile on Qin Wentian's face grew even more radiant. Chapter 569. After the ox demon exited the cavern, Qin Wentian entered as well. Not even an hour later, Qin Wentian walked out as he stared at the ox demon with a smile that was not a smile on his face. When he was comprehending the Great Void Thousand Imprints, he had already sensed that his mandate of force was on the verge of a breakthrough. As long as he pushed on, he would definitely be able to reach the perfection boundary of his mandate of force. However, he didn't do so. He forcibly suppressed the thought of a breakthrough and intentionally tricked the ox demon, hoping to gain some benefits. Hence, the 3rd trial of the Cavern of Life and Death was easily completed. Qin Wentian's mandate of force also stepped into the perfection boundary. Senior Ox, what about my benefits? Qin Wentian smiled as he stared at the ox demon. Don't be in such a hurry, didn't I say there would be more trials? If you want to gain benefits, you have to pass this trial first. The ox demon grinned, causing Qin Wentian to feel a sense of unease. This ox demon was extremely cunning. Every time he smiled like this, it meant that he was up to no good. Most probably, this ox demon was plotting against him again. Qin Wentian was extremely depressed. The master of the immortal martial realm seemed to have given the guardians of the cavern of life and death a huge amount of authority, allowing them to do whatever they wanted. That black Jiao python was like that, but this ox demon had even more authority, managing the trials of the cavern of life and death. Not only that, he didn't know what methods the ox demon would use to deal with him. Don't worry, the test this time around is absolutely fair. I will allow you to gather together with those on the floating bridges and those who entered the cavern of life and death, and engage in an extremely fair battle. If you can become the only one, it means that you have passed my test. The ox demon shrugged his head and grinned, causing Qin Wentian to want nothing more than to punch him in the head. Become the only one? No matter what kind of trial it was, how could it be so easy to become the only one? Although the 81 participants who obtained the medallion stepped onto 81 different bridges, there were still geniuses from the various sects on each bridge. There were so many demon-level geniuses in the royal sacred region, and although the 81 participants were the cream of the crop, it didn't mean that the others were mediocre. His senior brother, Duan Han, was the personal disciple of Sword Sovereign Ling Tian. Other than him, there were a total of 3 participants from the Battle Sword sect who obtained the medallion. As long as he wanted to become the only one, the difficulty was bound to be extraordinary. What could Qin Wentian say? Before he could say anything, the bull demon waved its hand and sent him flying. When Qin Wentian reappeared, he appeared on the pontoon bridge. However, this time, the pontoon bridge extended in all directions. The scenery in front of Qin Wentian was like a floating city. It was very big. The others were scattered all over the place in search of their own opportunities. Qin Wentian did not know what happened to the others when he was in the life and death cave, but he knew that it must not be simple. I hope everyone is well. Qin Wentian thought to himself. His body flickered as he looked ahead. In the distance, there seemed to be a misty illusion. After a while, there seemed to be a mystical place emerging. The test that the ox demon mentioned, could it be there? Qin Wentian's silhouette flickered as he sped forward. Not long after, Qin Wentian arrived at the boundary of the pontoon bridge as he stared downwards. Everywhere he looked, the mist gradually dissipated as everything became incomparably clear. In front of him, there seemed to be an ancient battlefield with many stone platforms. The stone platforms were like ancient battle platforms, and on top of each platform, there was an ancient war drum. These war drums quietly sat there, and each of them exuded a mystical aura, as though they were connected to the heavens and earth. These drums are so mysterious, they aren't ordinary war drums at all. Qin Wentian's gaze froze. With a single glance, he could see that there were hundreds of stone platforms, and on top of each platform, there was a war drum. It was as though they were prepared for those who stepped on the pontoon bridge. Rumble. An intense rumbling sound rang out. At the very front of this ancient battlefield, in the air above, an incomparably gigantic stone monument descended from the skies. The stone monument exuded a terrifying battle intent. A thunderous boom rang out as the stone monument landed on the ground, directly embedding itself into the ground. This stone monument shone with a terrifying light that cascaded down onto each and every war drum. Momentarily, the war drums began to emit rumbling sounds, as though they were filled with an intense will to battle, summoning the warriors who were beating them. At this moment, no matter where they were on the pontoon bridge, everyone could clearly see the situation over there. They could also feel the energy radiating from the stone monument. That energy was ancient and powerful, as though it could shatter the heavens and earth. It was as though there was a fearsome battle spirit within, containing an incomparably strong will to battle. A series of voices frantically flashed in that direction, as if they were being summoned by the war drums. After a while, many people appeared at the edge of the strange space in front of them. They looked at the ancient battle stone tablet and saw the words written on it. They quickly understood the purpose of these war drums. Wentian. A voice drifted over. Qin Wentian turned, only to see Yi Lingshuang, Qin Zheng, Yunmengyi, Chu Mang and Mu Feng. Staring at the expressions on their faces, Qin Wentian laughed, "The ox demon didn't trample me to death. I was only brought to a trial named the Cavern of Life and Death. It's good that you're fine. In that case, Fan Lu and Ouyang are fine as well." Chu Mang heaved a sigh of relief, Yi Lingshuang's eyes reddened, Qin Zheng had a smile on his face, Mu Feng was still expressionless, and Yunmengyi turned her head away, hiding her eyes from view. Ouyang was also trampled to death by the ox demon. Only now did Qin Wentian understand who the ox demon was referring to. When he saw the ox demon trampling you to death, Ouyang immediately cursed it in anger. After which, the ox demon stomped down, and Ouyang ended up in the same state as you. Not only that, the ox demon seemed to be enraged as it trampled madly, killing countless people. But from the looks of it now, it didn't really want to kill you guys. I was wondering why this trial was so monstrous. Qin Zheng explained. It's not so easy to survive the trial of the Cavern of Life and Death. An expression of worry appeared on Qin Wentian's face. Although the old ox promised him that he would take care of them, he still couldn't help but feel worried when he didn't see Fan Lu and Ouyang. As for the others, once they were dragged into the Cavern of Life and Death, they would either live or die. We've also encountered the trial of the Cavern of Life and Death, but we didn't know how dangerous it was. Hence, we didn't dare to attempt it. What's inside exactly? Yi Lingshuang asked. Qin Wentian explained, causing the others to feel worried for Fan Lu and Ouyang. You actually haven't died yet. A cold voice drifted over. Qin Wentian and the rest turned their gazes to the left only to see a row of silhouettes standing in the air. It was none other than Kei Cheng from the Violet Thunder sect. This person is from the Violet Thunder sect. It was precisely him who awakened the ox demon and almost caused Fan Lu to die. Chu Mang glared at Kei Cheng in rage. What happened back then? Who were the people who wanted to act against you guys? Qin Wentian icily asked. Those from the Violet Thunder sect, the Heaven Crippling sect, and the Great Earth sect. Qin Zheng calmly replied. Great Earth sect. Qin Wentian's voice was filled with killing intent. Yes, Ouyang recognized a disciple from the Great Earth sect. He said that he had participated in the heavenly fate rankings of Grand Xia before you and Ouyang, and his name is Qin Qin. Qin Zheng reminded Qin Wentian. Instantly, Qin Wentian thought of the great solar Qin clan. Over there. Yunmengyi faintly spoke. Her eyes were cold as she stared in a certain direction. Qin Wentian followed Yunmengyi's gaze and saw a young man around 30 years of age. His eyes blazed with fire, resembling a blazing sun, yet when he stared at Qin Wentian, his gaze was filled with an icy coldness. Great Solar Universe Art. Qin Wentian instantly understood that this person was none other than the Great Solar Qin clan. Back then in Xian King City, Qin Wentian seemed to have met this person before. Back then, when he was in Xian King City, he seemed to have said something to the elders of the Great Earth sect. Right now, Qin Wentian suddenly recalled that back then, the Great Earth sect truly had a motive for wanting to recruit him. Luckily, he had chosen the Battle Sword sect. Yet another wave of cold intent gushed over. Qin Wentian turned his gaze in another direction and saw Shi Kuang from the Heaven Crippling sect. Qin Wentian similarly stared at him, his eyes gleaming with a cold light. This time around, Shi Kuang continued to stare at Qin Wentian. He didn't show any signs of retreating like he did the first time they met. I heard that you want to kill us. Qin Wentian stared at Shi Kuang as he asked. The look in your eyes really makes me feel disgusted. Although you are still alive, your life will eventually be taken away. Shi Kuang pointed to the battlefield ahead as he stared at Qin Wentian. Over here, with the aid of the battle drums, you can recover your cultivation base. In fact, you can even unleash strength that far surpasses your current strength. I can already feel the summoning of the battle spirits. This burial ground is extremely suitable for all of you. After Shi Kuang spoke, he slowly turned and walked forward, bringing along a few others from the Heaven Crippling sect as they stepped into the battlefield. You are right. I, Shi Kuang, want to kill all of you. If you still have the slightest bit of courage, come on in and accept my challenge. Shi Kuang stepped onto a stone platform, standing in front of the battle drums as his killing intent gushed forth. Qin Wentian then turned his gaze onto Chen Zhao and the others from the Great Earth sect. His gaze landed on the person beside Chen Zhao. This person seemed to be the leader of the Great Earth sect. What do you all mean by this? Qin Wentian asked. The young man in the lead stared at Qin Wentian, and upon hearing Qin Wentian's words, he laughed in an extremely amusing manner. When he stared at Qin Wentian, his eyes contained a hint of ridicule, as well as a hint of arrogance. His name was Shenting, and he was a heaven's chosen from the Great Earth sect. He was extremely strong, and although he couldn't be compared to the most outstanding Heaven Dipper sovereign of the Great Earth sect, he should be ranked 4th or even 3rd among the Heaven Dipper sovereigns. His relationship with Chen Zhao wasn't bad, and Chen Zhao seemed to have some sort of grudge with this person in front of him. Although this person had killed Yi Kongfan before, which was an extremely glorious battle achievement, in Shenting's eyes, a 5th-level Heavenly Dipper sovereign actually dared to speak to him in such a manner. This person simply didn't know the immensity of the heavens and earth. Nothing much, Chen Zhao wants your lives. Naturally, I will help him. It's just that simple. If you want to fight, I will teach you how to be a proper person. Shenting walked towards the battlefield, the arrogance in his eyes couldn't be concealed at all. As for Kei Cheng, he didn't say anything. The Violet Thunder sect had a grudge with Qin Wentian, and Qin Wentian was very clear on this point. The reason why he acted was extremely simple. Did Qin Wentian want to deal with him? Shenting's words seemed to be what he wanted to say as well. Hence, Kei Cheng and the others also walked towards the battlefield. Chapter 570. Everyone stepped into the battlefield, standing on their respective platforms as they lightly stroked the battle drums in front of them. Qin Wentian's gaze swept over the battlefield, there were over 100 of them. Let us go as well. Qin Wentian slowly walked out, and an instant later, he arrived in front of a battle drum. Around him, Yi Lingshuang, Chu Mang and the rest stood there, with Qin Wentian in the center. Qin Wentian lightly stroked the battle drum as a marvelous feeling gushed forth. It was as though as long as he willed it, he would be able to infuse his will into the battle drum, transforming it into a battle spirit that would fight for him. Just like what the words on the gigantic monument had stated, in this battlefield, the battle drum represented the people. Their cultivation bases were still restricted, but by relying on the battle drum, they could break through this restriction and even surpass their own limits, allowing the battle drum to unleash a terrifying might that surpassed their original cultivation base. But as for how to achieve this, they would have to figure it out themselves. As long as one saw this phenomenon, they all stepped into the battlefield. There were no exceptions. They understood that since such a battlefield had appeared here, it was obvious that they were going to undergo a test. This would be the first true battle after entering the immortal martial realm, and from a certain perspective, it would be an extremely fair battle. Boom! Someone used his hands to strike the battle drum, as a surge of battle intent gushed forth, resounding throughout the entire battlefield. Boom, boom, boom. Sounds of battle rang out as more and more people tried to strike the battle drum, trying to figure out how to use it to battle. Qin Wentian's perception gushed forth, and after which, he blasted out a palm strike towards the battle drum in front of him. Instantly, a rumbling sound rang out as a marvelous energy emanated from the battle drum, enveloping him like a screen of light. In that instant, Qin Wentian had a strange feeling. He was able to fuse as one with the battle drum. This battle drum had a battle spirit that belonged solely to it. It was born for the sake of battle, and its sole purpose was to find a fighter that could sound it. Boom! Qin Wentian blasted out another palm strike as that marvelous feeling grew stronger and stronger. After the third strike, Qin Wentian seemed to have fused together with the battle spirit of the drum. As long as he willed it, he would be able to use the battle drum to attack in the direction he wanted. Bang! A blazing palm imprint grabbed towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian didn't raise his head, but his perception could clearly sense everything happening in his surroundings. On his left, an incomparably scorching palm imprint of flames shot towards him, wanting to crush him to death. Evidently, someone had already figured out how to use the battle drum a step ahead of him, and had already launched an attack against him. Qin Wentian's palm imprint blasted downwards, slamming into the battle drum. In an instant, a draconic roar erupted from the drum, blasting towards the blazing palm imprint. The sound of a collision rang out in the air as chaotic currents of energy gushed forth. As the clash started, battles broke out in other directions as well. In an instant, the entire space had turned into a real battlefield. Drums thundered, battle spirits roared, and battle intent swept out. Qin Wentian naturally wouldn't be polite when someone ambushed him. He changed his position and faced the person who attacked him head-on. A blood-colored palm imprint slammed down as the blood curse imprint ferociously pounced towards the other party. Humph, that person coldly snorted, not showing any signs of weakness. His flame seemed to contain a layer of heaviness, containing an extremely strong destructive force. They penetrated through the blood-colored palm imprint and blasted towards Qin Wentian. Spatial rupture. Qin Wentian slammed out with his palms as a destructive force blasted out, shattering the attack of his opponent. At the same time, both his palms moved, slamming onto the war drum. In an instant, two gigantic ancient bells appeared, smashing towards his opponent. The sound of the bells reverberated through the air, as though they could pierce through the heart, causing his opponent to groan in pain. The heartbreak ancient bell could pierce through the heart. As the battle started, everyone became more and more proficient in using the war drum to attack. The turbulence of the battle gradually grew more violent. The heartbreak ancient bell chimed, causing one's heart to tremble. Killing intent flashed in the eyes of that person as he started to madly beat the war drum in front of him. Numerous blazing long spears shot out, capable of destroying everything in their path. Qin Wentian acted as though he didn't see it at all. Demonic chi gushed forth as both his palms blasted out unceasingly. Numerous ancient bell chimes shook the heavens and earth, unceasingly piercing the heart. The bell chimes reverberated in the mind of his opponent, and in just an instant, his opponent coughed out a mouthful of blood as his countenance turned pale. The might of this heartbreak bell was actually so terrifying, unceasingly piercing the heart. Numerous strands of sword chi shot out, blasting towards the blazing long spears. The chimes of the 10,000 swords resonated in unison, causing his opponent's countenance to turn pale. Even the ancient bell chimes were trembling, as though his battle intent was unstable. Finally, he coughed out a mouthful of blood as his heart and meridians were shattered. With a thunderous boom, the war drum in front of him actually exploded. That person coughed out yet another mouthful of blood. After that, the miraculous energy within the war drum transformed into a beam of white light that actually shot towards Qin Wentian's war drum, seeping into Qin Wentian's war drum. The radiance radiating from Qin Wentian grew even more resplendent. When he struck his war drum once more, the sound of the drum chimes grew even more intense as his battle intent surged forth. Qin Wentian wasn't the only one who felt this way. When the battle erupted, many had already shattered the war drums of their opponents, causing their own war drums to gain even more strength. This was the battle drum's battle spirit plundering. Destruction was plundering. Attack quickly, plunder. If not, the gap between us will be widened. After Qin Wentian understood, he transmitted his voice to Yi Lingshuang and the others who were beside him. They all nodded as their attacks grew even more violent. Kei Cheng from the Violet Thunder sect, Shi Kuang from the Heaven Crippling sect, and Shen Ting from the Great Earth sect. These geniuses weren't in a hurry to kill Qin Wentian. After discovering that they could plunder his war drums, they started to launch attacks in a frenzy. Do your best to aid me in plundering. Kei Cheng spoke to the other experts from the Violet Thunder sect beside him. They had formed a small alliance, the Alliance of the Violet Thunder sect. If everyone shared the war drums, even if they rose up, they would still be weaker than some of the others. If they wanted to rise up quickly, there was only one method. That was to get the support of others, and with them as the center, they would be the first to rise up, invincible on the battlefield. You guys help me. Shen Ting also spoke. Evidently, he had the same idea as Kei Cheng. Not only them, the leaders of the other alliances all started to plunder the war drums of the geniuses in their alliance. Very swiftly, there were quite a few who rose up. He stepped into the second level of Heavenly Dipper. The will of his mandates in his attacks has also grown stronger. Someone discovered that not long after, Kei Cheng's attacks grew more and more terrifying. The strength of the alliance of experts from the Violet Thunder sect was simply too terrifying. For those who joined the Violet Thunder sect, there were many who were proficient in the mandate of lightning. Lightning had always been an offensive type of energy, and when they joined forces, their attacks would be even more terrifying. Hence, Kei Cheng was already starting to widen the gap between him and the others. Rumble. Under Kei Cheng's thunderous attacks, yet another person was destroyed. His war drum shattered into pieces as he died. No, I can only assist one person in plundering. Only then would I be able to obstruct the rise of these people. Some of the members of the loosely organized alliance could sense the impending danger. They weren't willing to back down and assist others. Their alliance was already unstable, and when they saw Kei Cheng's drumming getting louder and louder, they all sensed the danger. Wentian, we will help you plunder. Yi Lingshuang spoke. Qin Wentian was currently fighting against another person. Upon hearing Yi Lingshuang's words, his brows furrowed. After which, Chu Mang also added, that's right, if not, the gap between us will only widen. As the sound of his voice faded, a terrifying meteor hammer smashed towards Chu Mang. Chu Mang's palms slammed against the drum as a gigantic battle axe materialized in the air, slamming towards the meteor hammer. The terrifying might of the battle axe engulfed the entire space as it continued on its way towards Chu Mang. The person who attacked Chu Mang was the leader of one of the alliances, and his attack had already reached the second level of Heavenly Dipper. Okay. Qin Wentian nodded his head in agreement. He then turned his gaze onto the person who attacked Chu Mang as a cold light flickered in his eyes. You guys support me, I will be the main attacker. An intense battle intent gushed forth from Qin Wentian. The sound of his drum thundered as the heartbreak bell frenziedly blasted out, akin to a raging tempest as it gushed towards the experts of the alliance. Right. Yi Lingshuang and the others nodded their heads. After which, they started their attacks, helping Qin Wentian to defend against the attacks of their opponents, allowing Qin Wentian to go all out in his attacks. The collisions in the air were extremely resplendent, the sound of the drum thundered through the air. In the air, the heartbreak bell unceasingly flickered as the bell chimes blasted into the air, causing the hearts of the experts of the alliance to pound wildly as their faces flushed red. Numerous blood-colored ancient halberds descended from the skies, appearing in front of the heartbreak bell as they pierced towards the 7 experts of the alliance. Boom! An illusion of a nightmare instantly appeared in their minds. Initially, given their powerful wills, they should have been able to defend against it. However, the heartbreak bell still managed to draw all of their defenses away. Now that they were being assaulted by a nightmare, they could only grit their teeth and attack with all their might. The bell chimes continued ringing out unceasingly, as though it was playing the prelude to destruction. A few of them coughed out fresh blood as their drums shattered, dying on the spot. Not long after, the others were all killed as well. That expert in the lead was the most stubborn, yet his battle drum was penetrated by the ancient halberd. The battle spirit of the battle drum gushed into Qin Wentian's battle drum, its might growing stronger and stronger. And just at the moment when he destroyed the alliance, a flame giant behind him lunged towards Yi Lingshuang, wanting to devour her. "Sister Lingshuang, be careful." Qin Wentian's perception sensed this scene as he shouted. Yi Lingshuang's palms instantly blasted out the sound of her battle drum, causing sword qi to sweep through the air. However, she was still a step too late. The flame giant's might towered up into the sky as it bore down on her. Yi Lingshuang coughed out a mouthful of fresh blood as her body was blasted away from her battle drum. Although her battle drum didn't shatter, she had already lost the initiative. Her entire person was separated from the battle spirit of her battle drum, causing her to lose control of it. A terrifying fire dragon lunged towards her. Yi Lingshuang's countenance turned pale. The words on the stone monument clearly stated that in this battlefield, one could only borrow the power of the battle drum to fight. If not, using one's own power to attack would be considered as violating the rules and would result in death. Staring at the fire dragon that was about to devour her, Yi Lingshuang lifted her palms, preparing for her final attack. Bang! A gigantic palm imprint appeared from the void, directly shattering that attack. Yi Lingshuang's entire body was drenched in sweat as she stared at Qin Wentian. She had just survived a calamity, yet her battle drum was shattered. Luckily, she was separated from her battle drum, which was why she didn't die. "Sister Lingshuang, come behind me." Qin Wentian called out. Yi Lingshuang nodded, her silhouette flickered as she appeared behind Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian turned his gaze onto the person who sneak-attacked Yi Lingshuang. It was none other than Qin Wentian from the great Solar Qin clan. Although Qin Wentian had a grudge with these people, they didn't attack each other right away. Instead, they were using the fastest speed to increase their strength. But now, Qin Wentian couldn't wait any longer and directly attacked. Chapter 571. Qin Wentian stared at Chen Zhao, his deep eyes gleaming with an intense coldness, filled with disdain. Such sharpness would cause people to involuntarily feel a chill, as though they were being stared at by a ferocious bird of prey. Qin Wentian hated Qin Wentian, but how could Qin Wentian not hate Chen Zhao as well? Back then, the great Solar Qin clan had forced him into such a miserable state, killing Bai Qing's master and exposing her corpse in Ginkgo. This had directly caused Bai Qing's personality to change. When he thought about how it was unknown whether Bai Qing was dead or alive, the sharpness in Qin Wentian's eyes grew even more penetrative. Boom! The sound of the drum echoed out as a terrifying ancient imprint blasted out, aiming for Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao's eyes flickered with flames of rage, his entire body seemed to be on fire. The power of the flames gushed into the battle drum, transforming into the battle spirit of the drum. With a roar of rage, gigantic fire pythons manifested, twisting the space as they sped towards Qin Wentian. The reason why Chen Zhao wanted to eliminate Qin Wentian as soon as possible was because he was very clear about Qin Wentian's potential. Back then in Grand Xia, he was an inconspicuous character, but now, he already had a certain level of fame in the royal sacred region. If he allowed him to continue growing, he most probably wouldn't have another chance for revenge. The immortal martial realm was his last chance, borrowing the power of the Great Earth sect to kill Qin Wentian. However, Chen Zhao was a proud man. Before borrowing the power of the Great Earth sect, it would naturally be best if he could rely on his own strength to kill Qin Wentian. The fire serpents resembling magma danced in the air as the scorching hot destructive energy caused the entire space to tremble. Qin Wentian's drumming grew increasingly terrifying as the sound of the drumming grew louder and louder. Millions of palm imprints gushed forth like a tidal wave, crushing apart the terrifying fire serpents as they continued on their way towards Chen Yan. Chen Zhao beat the drum. The flames turned into huge waves that swallowed everything, but they couldn't suppress the attack of the palm. When Shen Ting, who was beside Qin Wentian, saw this scene, a cold gleam flashed in his eyes. He beat the drum to support Qin Wentian, and in an instant, many defensive palm prints appeared in the air, colliding with the power of Qin Wentian's attack. Boom! The blood-colored halberd slashed out, aiming for Shen Ting. This scene caused Shen Ting's eyes to flash with an extremely cold light. He turned his gaze towards Qin Wentian, only to see that Qin Wentian was also staring back at him. The battle intent of the two of them clashed in the air. The sound of the drum trembled. An incomparably huge earth arm grabbed towards Qin Wentian. It was extremely terrifying. This arm seemed to be indestructible and as steady as a mountain. Its might was terrifying as it crushed through the void. Qin Wentian continued beating the drum as an ancient halberd appeared in the air, slamming into the earth arm. A terrifying shattering might gushed forth as the earth arm was torn apart inch by inch. Shen Ting's countenance didn't change at all. He waved his hands again, beating the drum. In that instant, 9 similar arms manifested, tearing through space towards Qin Wentian. Upon feeling the might of those arms, Yi Lingshuang, who was standing behind Qin Wentian, had an expression of nervousness on her face. The gigantic drum in front of Qin Wentian trembled unceasingly as the humming of swords filled the air. A surge of sword might enveloped him as the 9 arms bore down on him. Qin Wentian waved his palms as boundless sword might sliced through the air, shattering those arms into pieces. Bzzz. With a wave of his gigantic hands, a rain of swords rained down from the skies, blasting towards Shen Ting. This caused Shen Ting to furrow his brows, and he could only continue beating the drum, creating a stone rampart in front of him. Qin Wentian's eyes were as cold as ever. Beside him, Chu Mang and the others were also fighting against those from the Great Earth sect. At this moment, Qin Wentian's palm slammed into his battle drum as a long spear pierced through the air like a bolt of lightning, vanishing into thin air. Chen Yan was currently fighting against Chu Mang, yet at this moment, he only felt a fearsome dream devil energy gushing into his mind. An incomparably intense fluctuation of energy could be felt in front of him, and it was as though he could see Qin Wentian's deep and cold eyes widening in front of him. Qi. A long spear directly pierced through Chen Yan's head as the sound of an explosion rang out. Chen Yan died, and his battle drum shattered. His battle spirit transformed into a beam of light that fused into the battle drum in front of Qin Wentian. You! A terrifying killing intent gushed over. Shen Ting continued beating the drum, yet Qin Wentian wasn't afraid at all. He defended against his opponent's attacks, and his aura grew even stronger. Staring at Shen Ting, he coldly stated, "Is this how you teach me how to be a person? How disappointing. You will see for yourself." An intense killing intent flashed in Shen Ting's eyes. His attacks abruptly changed direction, shifting to the side, no longer entangling with Qin Wentian. He wasn't able to take down Qin Wentian in a short period of time, yet he could see that Kei Cheng and the others were still growing stronger. This wasn't a good sign. Although he was confident that he could kill Qin Wentian, if he couldn't end this battle in a short period of time, the other geniuses would be able to widen the gap between them. To him, that was something he couldn't accept. If at the end, there was an existence that could suppress everyone, that would be their doomsday. Only he, Shen Ting, would be able to deal with this. Qin Wentian understood Shen Ting's thoughts. Since he'd already killed Chen Zi, Qin Wentian wasn't in a hurry to continue fighting with Shen Ting. Since Shen Ting could think of this, he naturally could as well. If they continued fighting, he would only be the fisherman who reaped the benefits. Shen Ting wasn't the only enemy on the battlefield. In truth, since everyone here had stepped into the battlefield, it meant that other than the allies they could trust, the others were all mortal enemies. Earlier, When they clashed with the experts from the Great Earth sect, there were already many pairs of eyes staring at them, seemingly hesitating on whether they should attack or not. Now, it was naturally time to deal with these people. Attack, plunder, grow stronger. This seemingly fair battlefield was actually extremely cruel. Everyone had to fight. If you weren't strong enough, others would grow stronger and plunder your life away. You couldn't even give up. Since you've already stepped into this battlefield, if you wanted to flee now, the instant you stepped away from the battle drums, there would be countless destructive attacks raining down on you, wanting to claim your life. After stepping into this battlefield, there was no longer a path of retreat. One could only fight and plunder. Maybe, this was the cruelty of the immortal martial realm. At this moment, on the battlefield, chaotic chi currents churned frenziedly. Experts fell unceasingly, the battle drums shattered unceasingly as the number of people on the battlefield decreased unceasingly. However, the remaining alliance members were all elites. Right now, there were only 13 alliance members left on this battlefield. The number of people in each alliance was different, but adding all of them together, there were less than 100 people left. And for the leaders of these 13 alliances, the strength of many of their attacks was already equivalent to the 5th level of Heavenly Dipper, with 2nd level mandates at the transformation boundary. The strongest among them was none other than the leader of the Violet Thunder Sect's alliance, Kei Cheng. This person was extremely intelligent. From the start, he didn't clash head-on with those powerful characters. It wasn't that he didn't dare to, but rather, he chose to avoid the strong and plunder the weak, frenziedly accumulating his strength. In addition to the overall strength of the Violet Thunder Sect's alliance, Kei Cheng was the leader of the alliance. Not only that, the remaining 13 alliances were all extremely united. If not, they wouldn't have been able to reach this step. But even so, the alliance now only existed in name. Because they were all focused on supporting a single person, the disparity in strength between them had widened. There was basically nothing they could do to help. Kei Cheng, everything depends on you. The experts from the Violet Thunder sect all spoke. Kei Cheng nodded his head lightly. With a wave of his hand, the sound of his drum reverberated through the air. Instantly, lightning danced in the air as the experts from the Violet Thunder sect all retreated, severing their connection with their battle drums. After which, the lightning directly blasted into their battle drums. Kei Cheng plundered the battle souls of their battle drums, causing the might radiating from him to grow even stronger. After which, the experts from the Violet Thunder sect all retreated behind Kei Cheng. Wentian. Chu Mang and the others stared at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian nodded his head, he also understood the current situation. Only he could shatter the battle drums of Chu Mang and the others. Prepare yourself. Qin Jing spoke. Qin Wentian lifted his palms. After which, Chu Mang and the others all retreated, severing their connection with their battle drums. Qin Wentian's palms slammed down as sword chi whistled through the air, shattering their battle drums. The souls of their battle drums fused into Qin Wentian's battle drums, and an instant later, an even more intense light enveloped Qin Wentian as the aura radiating from him grew stronger and stronger. Chu Mang and the others moved behind Qin Wentian, standing shoulder to shoulder with Yi Lingshuang on the stone platform. In the other directions, the others all did the same. The 13 alliances formed the final 13 participants. Kei Cheng from the Violet Thunder sect, Shen Ting from the Great Earth sect, Shi Kuang from the Heaven Crippling sect, these three were all enemies of Qin Wentian. As for the other 9 participants, there was an expert from the Battle Sword sect, while the others were all heaven chosen from ancient countries and sections. Those who could make others willingly support them were naturally the chosen from the major sections. The battle abruptly halted. The 13 participants were all enveloped by the light of their battle drums, and didn't continue their battle. They stared at each other, their battle intent radiating from them unmasked. After these 13 participants plundered the battle souls of their allies, a few of them already had auras at the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper, while the others were all at the peak of the 5th level. 13 participants, even if there are 6 battles, there's still one more participant. One of the participants spoke. This person was clad in golden armor, and his entire body was bathed in a golden glow. He was none other than an expert from Radiant Gold, and his combat prowess was extremely high. Since that's the case, I shall avoid this battle. Heaven Crippling's gaze abruptly shifted over, landing on Qin Wentian. Staring at Qin Wentian, killing intent could be seen flickering in his eyes as he coldly stated, "As long as I kill you, the remaining 12 participants will be able to fight one-on-one." "Humph, why must it be you?" The expert from Radiant Gold spoke. Right now, he was staring at Qin Wentian like he was looking at a prey. The battle soul of Qin Wentian was extremely powerful, and as long as he plundered it, he would be able to increase his strength by leaps and bounds. This was something everyone was very clear on. Upon hearing that the two of them wanted to eliminate Qin Wentian, the gazes of the crowd all landed on Qin Wentian. It wasn't because Qin Wentian was the easiest to kill, but rather, since Shi Kuang had drawn their attention to Qin Wentian, it was only natural that they would choose him. Especially since Qin Wentian was the only one among them who had obtained an immortal martial medallion. Hence, they were very happy to see Qin Wentian die. Given their pride, how could they feel that they were inferior to Qin Wentian? The judgment of the envoys from the immortal martial realm had been wrong this time around. Chapter 572. When Shi Kuang saw that the others wanted to contend against him, his aura instantly erupted forth as a surge of destructive energy gushed forth, fusing together with the battle drum in front of him. A shadow could be seen standing on top of the battle drum. It was none other than Shi Kuang himself. It was as though he had transformed into the battle spirit of the battle drum, fusing together with it. Boom! The experts from Radiant Gold weren't willing to be outdone. They too fused together with the battle spirit of the battle drum. A terrifying shadow stood proudly on top of the battle drum. This shadow was extremely large, its entire body was made from dark gold and exuded a terrifying penetrative might. Even before the sound of the drum rang out, a terrifying aura was already gushing forth, enveloping Qin Wentian. Despicable. Yi Lingshuang's countenance turned incredibly unsightly when she saw that all of them wanted to deal with Qin Wentian at the same time. Shen Ting and Kei Cheng also made their moves. 12 surges of aura gushed forth unceasingly, pressing down on Qin Wentian. I disdain bullying a single person. Since all of us want his battle spirit, let's do it one by one. Whoever can kill him first, the battle spirit shall belong to him. That expert from Radiant Gold coldly spoke. His voice seemed to contain a metallic aura, sharp and cold. Since this is the case, I shall be the first to strike out. Shi Kuang coldly spoke. After which, as the sound of his voice faded, the sound of his drum reverberated, causing the entire space to tremble. A terrifying beam of light howled in rage as it transformed into a gigantic heaven-crippling foot that stomped down from above Qin Wentian's head, wanting to crush Qin Wentian into dust. Qin Wentian's long robes fluttered in the wind as he stood before the battle drum. His will and perception seemed to have fused together with the battle drum. It was as though he was the battle drum, and the battle drum was him. Boom! A light sound rang out, the entire space trembled as a Vajra palm imprint shot out. However, it was directly crushed by the heaven-crippling foot. One person, one attack. They wanted to see who could kill Qin Wentian and seize the battle spirit from him. Naturally, their attacks wouldn't be weak, and Shi Kuang's attack was extremely powerful. Seeing that the foot was about to stomp down, Yi Lingshuang and the others who were behind Qin Wentian involuntarily had expressions of nervousness on their faces. Right now, not only was Qin Wentian's life in his hands, he couldn't afford to lose. If he died, the people behind him would all suffer the same fate. Dong, dong. 2 consecutive tremors, the sound of the drum vibrated, and rays of light rushed into the sky. Boom. Tens of thousands of palm prints suddenly soared into the sky, turning into raging waves that violently slammed into the heaven-crippling giant foot. With a cracking sound, the destructive heaven-crippling giant foot collapsed above Qin Wentian's head. Walala! Numerous dazzling golden spears pierced through the void. They were made of gold and moved like golden lightning, attacking Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian was still as calm as ever. His eyes were as cold as ice, akin to a prideful falcon, staring straight ahead. Bang! Another oppressive drumbeat reverberated through the air, causing a violent gust of wind to rise. When the thousand hands imprint blasted out once more, there were no more tens of thousands of palm imprints. However, the might contained within each palm imprint was even more terrifying than before, even stronger and more terrifying than before. The golden spears and the gigantic palm imprints clashed against each other in the air, before both of them were destroyed. It's my turn now. A cold snort rang out. A heaven chosen from the heaven-cleaving manor launched an attack towards Qin Wentian. The sound of the drum shook the heavens, and on the surface of the drum, there seemed to be numerous gigantic axes cleaving downwards. Up in the air, a beam of light from the axe slashed downwards, as though it wanted to cleave Qin Wentian into two. Not only that, the speed of the axes was extremely fast. At the same time he spoke, Qin Wentian slammed the drum once more. This time around, there seemed to be a terrifying response, as the sound of the drum reverberated through the air. Over 10 palm imprints whistled through the air, as though they were the continuation of the earlier palm imprints. These palm imprints were even more powerful than before. The battle axes could split the heavens and earth, slashing downwards from the sky. The palm imprints transformed into beams of light that blasted towards the battle axes, directly shattering them into smithereens. However, there were still a few palm imprints that shot towards the heaven-cleaving manor's heaven-cleaving manor. Amichem. The heaven-cleaving manor frowned. The attack he unleashed earlier could be said to be extremely powerful, yet it was actually repelled by Qin Wentian. This attack had undoubtedly caused him to lose face. The heaven-cleaving manors 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 palm imprints were directly destroyed. Because this attack was out of everyone's expectations, no one dared to continue their attacks on Qin Wentian in that instant. They didn't move, but Qin Wentian didn't stop. His pitch-black eyes stared at them emotionlessly, as though he could disregard everything. In his eyes, there was only his own battle drum. This time around, he struck the battle drum once more, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. His aura grew increasingly terrifying as the sound of the drum trembled, shaking the heavens and earth. The rumbling sounds grew even more terrifying, and the crowd could faintly sense that there were millions of palm imprints whistling through the air. However, only a single palm imprint actually appeared. At this instant, Qin Wentian's pitch-black eyes stared at Shi Kuang. His gaze was akin to a sharp blade, containing the disdain and sharpness of a king, as well as the arrogance and sharpness of a demon. This gaze of his caused Shi Kuang's heart to tremble violently. Die! As the sound of his voice rang out, the killing intent in the air seemed to resonate with the word kill. That palm imprint he blasted out was like the word kill he spat out from his mouth. It contained a towering killing might that instantly descended upon Shi Kuang. The entire space seemed to be enveloped by this killing might. Shi Kuang's countenance drastically changed as a destructive aura gushed forth frenziedly. He frenziedly slammed the drum, causing the heaven-crippling giant leg to stomp down. But at the same instant, the palm imprint arrived, bringing with it a tyrannical strength, as well as the supreme aura of a demon king. Pang! A thunderous sound rang out, the sound of the drum shattering apart and Shi Kuang dying. Not only for Shi Kuang, even those from the heaven-crippling sect behind him had pale countenances. They had to pay the price for Shi Kuang's defeat as well. Shi Kuang was someone they had raised up with their own hands, and they were bound by his glory and glory. Now that Shi Kuang had died, how could they escape? The stone platform shattered under the might of the palm imprint. Only a beam of light shot towards the direction of Qin Wentian, causing Qin Wentian's aura to grow even stronger. Earlier, one of those who wanted to attack halted as they stared fixedly at Qin Wentian. Right now, even without the aid of his bloodline, Qin Wentian could already unleash the strength of a 6th-level Heavenly Dipper sovereign. Now, it's 12. Qin Wentian's aura grew even stronger. Just like what was written on the stone monument, by borrowing the power of the battle drum, Qin Wentian's aura grew even stronger. Earlier, those who wanted to attack halted as they stared fixedly at the silhouette of Qin Wentian. Right now, even without the aid of his bloodline, Qin Wentian could already unleash the strength of a 6th-level Heavenly Dipper sovereign. Now, there are 12 of us. Qin Wentian stared at the expert from Radiant Gold as a killing intent gushed forth from him. Since this is the case, let me experience it for myself then. A golden light flickered in the eyes of the expert from Radiant Gold. From his eyes, it was as though he could see the sharpness of the golden spear, capable of piercing the eyes of those who looked at it. The others didn't say anything, they were all searching for their own opponents. With 12 participants, there would be 6 battles. All of them wanted to defeat their opponents and plunder the battle drum souls of their opponents, allowing them to grow stronger. There was no need for Qin Wentian to continue searching. Both him and the expert from Radiant Gold erupted forth with terrifying killing intent as they clashed against each other in the air. I, Chen Tian, Lin, have rarely met a worthy opponent. Although all of you are strong, you will only be my stepping stones. The expert from Radiant Gold coldly snorted. As the sound of his voice faded, the sound of his drum shook the heavens, exuding an incomparably sharp sharpness that shot up into the clouds. A fearsome golden spear erupted forth, aiming for Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian wasn't afraid at all. With the sound of his drum, the palm imprint in the air collided with the golden spear. However, an even more terrifying might gushed forth. Chen Tianlin's eyes turned golden, and so did his palms. Once again, he ruthlessly slammed his palms onto the battle drum, causing a raging wind to howl, containing a sharpness within it. From the center of the battle drum, rumbling sounds could be heard as a resplendent golden spear that caused the sky to change color appeared. This golden spear was 10 meters long, and seemed indestructible. How strong is your palm imprint exactly? Chen Tianlin roared in rage. That golden spear pierced out, leaving a trail of golden light in the air as a terrifying whistling sound rang out, wanting to annihilate everything in its path. Qin Wentian's countenance didn't change at all. Swishing sounds rang out once more as the heavens and earth trembled. The gigantic palm imprint broke through the skies, slamming into the golden spear in the air. The golden spear slowly advanced forward, wanting to tear the palm imprint apart. But ultimately, it transformed into a resplendent golden light that illuminated the skies, disappearing from sight. The experts from Radiant Gold don't even dare to utter a single word when facing Li Tian. Within Radiant Gold, you can't even be considered the most dazzling existence, yet you still dare to be so arrogant without the immortal martial medallion. Qin Wentian's voice shook the heavens and earth, causing Chen Tianlin to laugh maniacally. Rumbling sounds rang out from his body as a golden light erupted forth, causing the entire sky to turn golden. This was the power of the gold bloodline. What a joke, you actually dare to compare yourself to Li Tian. What does the immortal martial medallion count for? Just because you have the medallion, you dare to look down on the entire world? How arrogant and ignorant. This strike of mine shall claim your life. His voice reverberated through the air as a towering golden energy gushed forth from Chen Tianlin. With a howl of rage, even his long hair turned golden as he blasted his attack onto his battle drum. The sound of his drum echoed out as golden light illuminated the skies. An even more powerful energy erupted forth from his battle drum. How can an ant know the will of a rock? Qin Wentian calmly spoke as he struck his drum once more. This time around, silence filled the air. The battlefield between him and Chen Tianlin was so silent that it was terrifying. It was as though a sense of impending death was approaching. Arrogant. Chen Tianlin howled in rage as unease appeared in his heart. However, in front of him, a fearsome might erupted forth as an even more powerful golden spear manifested. How can a dead person have the will of a rock? Chen Tianlin coldly spoke. However, as the sound of his voice faded, an overwhelming sense of impending doom descended upon him, causing Chen Tianlin and those behind him to feel their souls trembling. Rumble. An all-annihilating palm imprint erupted forth from the void. Chen Tianlin's eyes narrowed as he saw the palm imprint growing larger and larger, crushing the heavens and earth as it bore down on his head. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.